Alrighty, we are live. Hello everybody, welcome to the stream. Another day in my RPG game development for the RPG game Adventures in Lestoria. So last time we left off finishing the chapter 3 final boss, which is called the Ghost of Pirate Captain. I made some notes from the last time I streamed of things I need to do before we continue. Because I forgot just two things that are kind of important. So the first one is removing the curse debuff from the player on the boss kill. So the pirate captain applies a debuff to the player that lasts until it is destroyed. However, we do not get rid of it, so the player still is slowly dying as they are trying to finish the stage. So we need to fix that first, which is really easy. Just in the strategy death function for the boss, we remove all player buffs for the curse. So if we go looking here, when the boss was hit and spawned or advanced to the next phase, if we're on the last curse phase, I think the hiding is where we applied the debuff. Let's see. We either apply before or after. Oh, here we go. So it's called the curse dot. So if we're on the last curse phase, then yeah, the curse dot is applied. So we're just going to remove that from the player by doing something similar. Using game get player. Remove buff of buff type pirate ghost captain curse dot. Yeah. Now I was wondering if there was a point where this buff might appear more than one time. I'm not sure. Like, for example, if you don't get rid of it, do you then have 2 stacks of it or 3 stacks of it? I think that would be the case, and I don't know if that's intended. It's like if you don't get rid of the coin, you just have multiple dots now, right? But this only removes one of the buffs. It doesn't remove all of the buffs of a certain type, and I wonder if we're allowed to do that. We probably haven't made a function that specifically does that. There is one overload. There it is. So yes, we can remove all buff types of the same exact buff. I don't think the curse is supposed to stack if you fail, but at the same time, punishing the player for not returning the coin might also be a good idea, only because it's like kind of a risk-reward thing. If you choose not to follow the mechanics, you are going to suffer more. So maybe that actually is a good thing. So we're gonna go with that for now. So with that done, the other thing I noticed was that the shrapnel shots actually were not going off during the final phase, like at all. They just stop. So I need to figure out why they're not going off. And I think it's because we just aren't using the same variable again. Like, it's possible we're using some other variable. So here again, we have the final shrapnel timer, right? So let's look at how we used it before. So before, if we wanted it, it would be shrapnel shot delay. So let's take a look at how they're defined and see if they're any different from each other. So the shrapnel hiding shot delay is 5 seconds, which makes sense. It comes down pretty quick. We have the shrapnel shot delay, which is 0.4 seconds. But that's different from the actual delay part. And then the final shrapnel timer is set to 5 seconds. So indeed, it looks like we messed up yet again. And we're supposed to use shrapnel shot delay to continuously spawn more of these bullets over and over. And then we have advanced cannon phase, which is kind of weird because... But it sets the fall timer, which is where all the real stuff happens. So this is more like, okay, why does it go plus 0.5, right? 0 plus 0.5, when it should be Like, I'm just all sorts of confused, if I'm being for real. Like, how does that make sense? So, our cannon timer has to be greater than or equal to this value. Does the cannon timer increment on its own? I want to say it doesn't, which is probably why it stops in the first place. Because I bet we have to increment it ourselves. Let me see where else it would be incremented, if at all. Yes. So under the normal phase, it's incremented here. Under the final phase, it is not incremented at all. Yes, so it looks like that line was missing, which will make it go off. Then this 0 needs to actually be the final shrapnel timer, and we add a 0.5 second delay just to offset it randomly. And if we look up here, with the shrapnel fall shots coming down, these all are taking care of themselves, so we should be good at this point. And that should take care of that. So we're going to go back to the release desktop build. We're going to go back to our Adventures in Listoria solution, set as the default project, rebuild the game, and then we're just going to check one more time if the game is still working. Yay. I think with that out of the way, we'll be pretty much all set. Good morning, Plasticky. It's not morning, but hello. Good to see you. Hope the stream goes well. I hope so too. Thank you. Alright, controller. Get that plugged in again. Thank you. This once again pops up. I'm just gonna hide you again, because you always do this to me. And yeah, we're just gonna check the last phase once again. I also want to test what happens when we don't return the coin, because according to the current setup, if we don't return the coin, then you end up having multiple ghost curse dots happening on you at the exact same time, which is surprising. So we will see. Also, I think when I mathed it out, I still think the lethal tempo is slightly stronger in the sense that we can't completely spam our abilities with our current mana regeneration. It's hard to say, right? So I'm not going to return this treasure, which means in a moment here I'll start getting the curse dot debuff. Yes. So I'm holding it right now, and I currently have it ticking down. So now I'm going to see what happens when we advance to the next phase. And I'm still holding this thing. Will I get a second one? And more importantly, will I be taking double the damage now? I think that's the case, and I think it's intentional, meant to like punish you if you aren't doing the mechanic correctly. So this might be okay. We're gonna see what happens. So there's another coin, and I think I'll just leave it there. I'm not even gonna pick this one up, and we'll see if I get 2 ticks of this now. Yeah, so now I'm getting double curse debuffs. Ow. I think if I pick it up, I'll have 2 coin buffs. I don't know what that means for... Yeah, this is... this hurts. Can I return them both? Okay, so I can return them both at the same time. So if the player realizes, hey, I need to return these, and they do, then yeah, everything will be just fine. But yes, they do stack, and that is very deadly, because then you're losing 2% of health per second instead of 1%, which is brutal. And here we see the coin flip no longer happens, which is good. We're just instantly cursed, and we have to go find the boss. And then this time we should see shrapnel shots once the final phase begins. I'm not seeing them, so maybe something's broken? They should be popping up. I don't know why they're not. That's weird. The cannon timer should be going up, and we should end up entering in here at some point. So we do, which means all of this goes off. The shrapnel cannon timer gets set to... Oh, I see the problem. We keep setting it, so that means they never go off because it keeps getting reset. I see. So it's just getting reset every time, so... A low randomness going from 0 to 0.5 is what we need to offset the timer. So really it's going to make it between 5 seconds and 4.5 seconds of time between every single shrapnel phase. A little confusing, but yeah. We'll do it one more time and then confirm that's good. And then today we get to implement, let's say, at least 2 or maybe 3 of the Chapter 4 monster AIs. I would really like that. That'd be good. Because the Chapter 4, or the monster AIs don't take a very long time. It's the bosses that take a while. Just because of how involved they are. With all the mechanics they have, and obviously their boss fights are supposed to be more interesting than the normal fights, right? So, there is that. I also would like to test out how strong characters are when they get to this point in the game. That is, like, we'll have to, like, playtest a bunch of things eventually. Like, see, okay, when you have this gear, how much stats do you get, right? Because this character is kind of cheated in. While she's not wearing the best of gear, she is 27 levels higher than a player should be at this point, which makes it a lot tougher to judge, okay, is the balancing right on this, or is it wrong? Is the boss too weak, too strong? By this point, the players will have less HP. They should also have a little less damage, but then they'll also have better gear upgrades than this, because this is shell gear, which is, I think, the 2nd tier of gear, so it's not even the 3rd tier of gear. So I don't know, maybe it works out. It's like, yes, this character is stronger, but has weaker gear, so that's kind of made up already, right? Anyways, it is nice to play through the fight a few times to see how it goes. I would like to try it on a warrior as well, because warrior is a melee class, so it would be interesting to see how it plays when you're so close up. Hi Roxa6, thank you. Yeah, it's my game I've been working on for the past 3-ish years. Just currently testing one of the boss fights. The shrapnel shots should come down once we advance here, wherever the boss went. There you are. Okay, there we go. So yes, it should be a little more chaotic now with those pouring down every 4-ish seconds on top of everything else. Yeah. It's meant to be a bit chaotic. Okay. So everything seems to work there. That's good. Yeah, I think technically at this point you're supposed to have another set of gear at this character. Yeah. Oh wait, no. Shell is the 3rd tier. Steel is the 2nd tier. For armor, it's copper, and then shell. So that's how that works. So they're all just +1, but it shows how strong they are at this point. And it goes up pretty quick, so there's that. Okay. So I get to just make those commits. They were just extra bonus commits that we needed to do, just notes I came up with from yesterday's stream after reviewing what we did. So we remove curse debuff when the player completes chapter 3 boss fight, and shrapnel shots now appear again during the final phase, and this is release build 12367, and we are good to go. Okay, yeah, this isn't a remote repository anymore, so I'm going to have to push it again to recreate the repository. And then we're just going to do another merge with master. And that's it. I basically revived the branch to fix a little bit more of this. Is it outdated? Really? I'm surprised that would be the case. Okay, anyway. So when check succeeds, we will create the merge commit. And we get to move on. So, finally get to create another branch to build another monster today. I think the first one is going to be super easy. So we're starting with the skeleton archer. The skeleton archer just has the skeleton or the goblin bow behavior, exactly the same behavior and everything. So a little lazy, but at the same time we have a lot of advanced monster scripts now, to the point where we can reuse some behaviors that we find handy. So you are gonna get to see the process of how we add a monster into the game today from scratch. So first, I'm going to make a new branch based off of master. Let's go ahead and fetch. That way we're up to date. Sync. How about sync? Yes. So that puts us up to date with the remote. And then we're going to make a new local branch from master titled Skeleton Archer. And it's important as you build out each feature of your game or program that you separate them into branches. That way you are not messing with other things you might be working on at the same time. And it's very easy to isolate, okay, where do certain problems come from? You can test how the game works with one feature implemented, make sure it doesn't cause bugs for anything else before you put it back into your main repository. So we are now on the Skeleton Archer branch. The first thing the game requires are some sprites. Now, unfortunately, I haven't contacted the artist to commission these pixel sprites yet. So in the meantime, we use placeholders. Very common to do when you're doing solo game dev. So we're gonna actually borrow the Goblin Bow sprites in the meanwhile. Now there is a foreground sprite, which I'm curious what that is about. Oh, it's for the Goblin Boar Rider. So the Boar Rider is a skeleton archer sitting on one of the boars. Oh, excuse me. And so because of that, we use a custom foreground sprite specifically for it, but normally we just use these sprites if it's just a standalone one. So basically I'm going to export this as the Skeleton Archer, and by default the game assumes the name of the monster is also what the asset name will be. So I can call this Skeleton Archer, and it will pick it up that Skeleton Archers use this specific image. Just keeps things simple. I'm also going to invert the image so I know it's a placeholder and it's not the actual sprites for the main monster. I just like to do that. And so now that we have that, we have to next go over to our monsters database, and we're going to have to add in a new entry for the monster. Since it's similar to the Goblin Archer, we're going to search for Goblin Bow. We'll go ahead and copy its data, insert it at the bottom, change the name of the entry to Skeleton Archer, and then we will proceed to change all its stats to match whatever spec the designer wanted. So our designer says the Skeleton Archer has 550 health, 49 attack, which presumably is also the collision damage, although I think we argued that collision damage on the Ranger didn't really make sense. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe because it just like aims very well. So because it aims well, I think we just decided not to. So I'm gonna leave it out for now. The move speed of this monster is 95% normal speed, 100% its normal size, and gives 39 experience. The strategy uses Goblin Bow. If we wanted to change any specific parameters for just this monster without affecting the Goblin Bow strategy, we can go into the Goblin Bow strategy file, and we could add any of these parameters. Like for example, let's say I wanted faster arrow speed on these guys. We can say, okay, here's a custom arrow speed parameter specific to skeleton archers. It makes the arrows even faster. So these, we could say strategy overrides. And for now I'll leave that in. I think having a higher arrow speed for these guys would make them a little more difficult to deal with naturally, so it might be a viable option. Now that we have them added to the monsters database, if we needed to, we would create a new monster strategy and start writing out the code for it. We don't have to do that because the Goblin Bow strategy already exists. All the AI for how it works is already programmed in here, so we won't have to write the AI for this particular monster. We just have to put them in the game now, make sure they work, and then we can move on. So the next part of this is going to tiled. Actually, before this, opening up in GIMP our monster tile set. So we're gonna go to maps, monsters tileset.png. This contains one of every monster sprite in our game that we want to add to the world. So right now I'm using placeholders, and that's perfectly fine. We just add the left-facing sprite of this monster into there. I think these are, according to the monster file, they are 32 by 32. So I need to redo the grid. We can take that and put it roughly right around here. That should be fine. Go ahead and save that. And then we're gonna go into our monsters presets map, and we'll create a new monster object containing what we just made. So I could literally copy paste one of these, although I will have to change most of this, so it's better to just drag in the new one. I have to find the tile set. There it is. We can place a new object, I would hope. Insert tile. And then I hate that doesn't zoom in on the cursor. That's kind of odd behavior. It like zooms into the lower left corner instead, which is really strange. So this is the Skeleton Archer. A class is a monster. That'll make it have a red outline. And then after this, we have to save it as a template. We put it in this folder with all the other monsters. The name is already auto-populated. And now we can go to any map we are interested in testing this on. So we're gonna go to the Chapter 4.1 map, where I've been testing new monsters. And down here, we're going to drag and drop in 3 skeleton archers. At least I would be able to if I was on the object layer. 1, 2, and I'll just copy paste the third one. I'm gonna get rid of the skeleton barbarians here. And then for these 3 archers, I'm gonna say they all will spawn from this spawner. And now we have to, since we have new graphics, we have to go into our assets folder, delete the old game pack, which contained our previous assets, which will hint to the game that there are new assets to create, and then wait for our new game to build. Just has to do some small edits. And then it should load in all the data necessary for our new monster. Like I said, Skeleton Archer was going to be super easy because most of the framework for it already existed. We didn't really have to do much. The next monster, on the other hand, has new stuff, so we're definitely going to be more involved in that one. So let's go to the Chapter 4 area. It's like way, way up there. I think I missed it. Okay. Funny enough, our game is still in Chapter 3 because when we clear the final boss of Chapter 3, we don't advance the chapter. You love the Famicom style overworld? Yeah, it's pretty cute, huh? The music, our sound designer did goes great with it too. Let me, play it real quick. I have the music muted because I have to hear it hundreds of times a day, but it's kind of cute. It's fun. So, Skeleton Archer. Let's see. Okay, yes. So it looks like everything's set up for them. And they just work as we would expect. Yeah, they have pretty far ranges too, so... Yeah, like I said, the AI for them already existed, so... Not much is necessary in terms of building them, minus the actual sprites themselves, so... There's that. So that one's easy enough. I didn't expect that one to be a problem, really. Okay. So now... We'll go ahead and commit that. I don't think it caused any problems. Everything compiles and runs, so we're pretty much ready to just submit that. So I think this is build 12368 because this is behind by a few versions. Let me do a quick merge with master and make sure, because the remote was slightly behind. Oh wait, don't do that. Let me see. Remotes, master. Let's fetch. Here we go. So yes, we want to get to here. So let's go ahead and do that. I don't know if I can do it from here, I'll be honest. I can fetch, but I don't think that'll get us there. I have to actually check out the branch in order to sync it, I think. Yeah, these are the incomings. I think technically I can merge with this, though. Yeah, merge Origin Master into Skeleton Archer. I could do it that way, and that just gets us to the latest, because the Origin, the remote, is further ahead. Okay. That didn't work because we have a current commit going on. Let me do this real quick. But I think we should be 12368. That's usually the only problem I have with this, is keeping the version number up to date when we pull an earlier branch. So this is add in skeleton archers. Oh, one thing I will remove right now, though, is their drop table. I noticed their drop table was the same as the goblin archers, which is not right. So I will comment that out. Okay. That's just a config file change, so it won't affect the build itself. Okay. So that pushes that branch up. And then we can go here and do a pull request. Skeleton Archer into master. And this is for issue number 84. Part of issue number 84, which is our task to actually complete all these monsters. Okay. So changes conflicting with the target branch, that makes sense. So the way we fix that is we're gonna have to pull it, or yes, we're gonna have to merge it ourselves. So that's what I was saying earlier, like I was gonna have to pull the remote anyway, so let's do that now. So I'm gonna try to merge. It's gonna say there's two potential conflicts. We can see there's the 1, 2, 3, 6, 7 I was talking about, and we're on 1, 2, 3, 6, 8 now. So we're actually gonna keep this one. Let me do this. This is easier to understand. We'll keep our current, and we'll keep current. And then that merge, unable to unlink, invalid argument. I don't know what that means. What if I just take incoming? Okay, it doesn't want me to do either. That's interesting. I don't know why. I'm not running... Oh, I am running the game. Okay, oops. That would explain it. We can't touch the executable. Okay, anyways, keep current. So yes, this is merge with upstream, branch, master branch. That puts us up to date. And now that that's resolved, we can continue with our pull request. Cool. And now we can move on to the next monster. The next one's actually going to require work. It's the Skeleton Captain, which is a lance shield mounted, a lancer with a shield mounted on a horse. So I don't think, I was thinking about this earlier. I'm like, oh, we could just use the Goblin Boar Rider code because the Goblin Archer rode on a boar. So we're like, oh, we'll just use the same code. But then I realized, well, the horse is not going to be like its own monster. When you kill the lance shield, you kill the Skeleton Captain, it's dead. So, because of that, it's just one singular monster. But it has a couple special abilities. It has the jousting ability, where it speeds up and then charges towards the player, slows down, turns in a circle, starts again. It's very similar to the wolf or dog behavior implemented in Chapter 1. So we're probably going to refer to that code, especially for the turning code, the steering. And then we have the flag drop. So the flag drop is pretty simple because it's just going to detect once you're in range of another unit, you drop a flag that can hasten them, and it will provide a buff to everybody nearby. And also the flag is another unit by itself. So basically we need to make a flag enemy that's just going to be destroyable, and as the Skeleton Captain itself. I think it would be nice... So I'm thinking gameplay-wise, it would be great if the flag had its effective radius shown on screen, like a small transparent circle. I think that would be smart. And then anything that is buffed by it will also get a small display that says buff, like, I don't know what to call this, just like stat up or something. I think that's a good indicator to let the player know, hey, this thing is positively influencing the monsters. I should probably make sure it doesn't continue to exist, or I should get it away from the flag that is influencing them. So I think that'll make it more clear what is actually happening with this guy. Because it's a new monster as well, I'm just trying to think what sprites I should use. Realistically, it's just going to be 4 walking sprites. Maybe during the jousting attack, it's going to have like its own attack animation. So when we're thinking of the monster, a new monster, we have to think of what animation sets it has and how we're going to transition into them. So I'm going to make a new monster entry called a Skeleton Captain. The Skeleton Captain is going to have 1,900 health, 84 attack. We're going to make the collision damage also be 84, as that's its attack. Usually the attack and the collision damage are the same because getting bumped by a monster is sometimes their attack, and in the case of this monster it definitely is. Move speed is 130%, the size is 180%, pretty large monster, and it gives 101 experience points. The strategy will be a new one called Skeleton Captain. Although I almost want to call this like Skeleton Jouster. I feel like that might be more akin to what we're looking for. It's a combination of like the wolf and the boar, because what the boar does is the boar targets the player, charges at them, and then stops for a bit, rinse and repeat. The wolf, on the other hand, targets the player, charges towards them, rotates around, does it again. So it's very close to the wolf, but also to the boar in the sense of charging in a straight line. We don't need this. And we're gonna assume, well, assumptions are bad, but since the size is 180%, we're assuming we're just gonna use the default sheet frame size for now and assume it's just gonna be scaled up. But we can adjust that later. It's gonna be a 4-way sprite sheet. So we have the idle, the walk animation, we'll have the attack animation. I am going to change it to be called attack. Or let's call it charge. And then the death animation. The charge animation is it's still going to be a running animation, just different. So I'm still going to make it repeat. So it's basically going to be the walk, but different. So I'm probably going to use the same kind of frames. It might be a little faster or something, just because the charge itself gives it an increased speed, so it should look like it's going to be faster. Idle, walk, charge, death. Also, I'll make all these the same for now. 3 frames each. No drops. Okay. So let's go ahead and make some placeholder sprites for them. I think the best one to use would probably be the boar itself, or maybe we'll combine the boar plus, where are all the sprites? Monsters? I guess I wasn't in monsters. Okay. So maybe combining the boar... You know, the boar rider is a pretty good example, just... It's not going to be using... Yeah, like we can actually use this as the quote-unquote horse for now, just as a sample. So I will export this as the Skeleton Captain. And we'll just overlay a couple of things on top of it. So I only need 3 sets of sprites, or 4, sorry. Idle, walk, charge, and death. So I kind of have that already. I have 4 sets, so that's good. For the idle animation, I said there were 3 frames. Let me just change it to 1 for simplicity. For the walk animation, we'll just say we have 4 frames right now. Also, these are not 20 or 12 by 12, are they? 24 by 24. They are definitely more than that. I think they're 32 by 32. I'll just scale them down for now. So instead of 512, we're going to reduce them by 0.5. Is it 0.5? No, it's 0.25? Oh, 1.3 times the size. Okay. Divide by 1.3, I guess. Ends up being around 384 pixels, which is 24 times 12? 288. Where did we get 384 from? This must be a different size then. What size is the bore? Bore is... sheet frame size is 32 by 32. Oh, it's 4 animations. So 16 times 24. 384. Okay. So I'm just gonna do that. This probably looks wonky, but that's fine. And let's get like a dagger goblin, or maybe a skeleton. Well, these don't exist yet. I'm just trying to find a decent placeholder that works. I guess for now these will do. Either that, or we can use maybe... But you know, maybe Pirate Captain might be better. Let me see. We could probably just use this for now. So these are, I think, 36 by 36, so I'm probably gonna have to cut some up as well. But I specifically just want to use these where he does hold the sword out. So I want to grab some of these and use them for now. I'm gonna have to shrink them because they're 36 by 36. Down by 1.5. Which is 96. Okay. Yeah. So essentially, kind of just plug and play them for now. Is it the second or third one? I labeled charge on the third one. So I will do it here. And I'm just gonna say 3 frames. We don't need all of them. And I'll just do that for now. Again, just very quick, simple placeholders, nothing fancy. Not trying to make this more complicated than it has to be. 3 frames, 3 frames. Walk has 4, that's fine. And then let's just get sprites for walking, which, sure. Once again, scale them down. And put those in. 96. I don't know why there's an extra pixel on this image. That's funny. Just throw those guys there. So why not? And then for charge, usually what we like to do is have like an outline so we know like, hey, special attack happening. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. Oh, I don't want a feathered, please. Then just fix up ones that bleed out. A frame. And with that out of the way, I can remove the excess pixels. Yeah. Cool. Just a real quick and dirty way to have some placeholder sprites so we know what is going on when we develop the AI for this. So, now that we have those in place, export. It looks like I forgot a space when I exported, so I need to add that. Otherwise it's... the game will not recognize that. Skeleton Captain. Okay. So that exists now. Again, we'll have to delete our game pack one more time. And we're going to create a new monster strategy now. So first I'll create an entry for it in the monster strategies configuration file. It doesn't have to hold anything yet, but it will very soon because we will, of course, have configurable properties for it. So the Skeleton Captain. In fact, maybe we'll come up with some now, since we already have the description of what it's supposed to do. So, jousting. We have how long it speeds up. Jousting, speed up speed. Speed up time. It takes 1 second. Jousting move speed buff. And according to the design doc, it's 50% move speed buff. How long the slowdown is. So 2 seconds of slowdown. Jousting slowdown time. And then maybe we'll add a property for the turn speed so we can configure how fast it takes for the monster to make a circle all the way back around to once again attack the player. So turn speed. We can define this in degrees per second. So let's say to perform a full 180 to face you again, maybe it takes 1 second. Let's do 180 degrees per second. Okay, so I think that's a good way to start it. And then, you know what? Let me move this file closer so I don't have to jump between these two screens over and over. Alright, so next we have... Like, we're being a little silly here. Oh, I grabbed the wrong file. Let me grab the actual monster description file. That's more important. Okay. So when the skeleton captain gets in a 150 range, it will drop a flag. Okay, so drop flag range is 150 units, presumably. That will hasten up units within 600 range of the flag by 30%. So presumably, hasten also recovers additional mana, although maybe this is just a separate buff. Because the original hasten description says it increases attack, movement, and animation speed per here. Well, we describe it here. Mage units recover an additional 2 mana per second. What is their normal mana recovery? So they normally recover 5 mana per second. So 2 extra mana per second is 40% more than normal. So that's interesting. They get a slightly boosted amount. I wonder if that's intentional or if that's just how it's calculated. But realistically, we can just say their mana regeneration will also be hastened thanks to the hasten buff already. So that's already taken care of. 2 ways to approach that. Again, designer balanced it out this way, so we might have to talk about how he intended this to be. It could go either way, though. Anyways, the drop flag range is 150. The flag range itself is 600. Now, we know the flag is going to be a separate monster unit, so we're not going to program what the flag properties are in here. We're going to program that in a separate flag monster strategy. So let's add that now. The flag itself. So we'll go back to monsters, and we'll set up one entry for the flag. I guess I should call this the skeleton captain flag to be very specific and make sure we're like, well, what flag, right? It's kind of generic. The skeleton captain flag has 280 health. It does no damage. It has no collision damage. It does not move. It has normal size. It does not give XP. It is going to use the skeleton captain flag monster strategy. Sure. It's a 4-way sprite sheet. You'll have idle, walk, attack, and death. Although these are just going to be blanks pretty much. Like, they're just going to not be used. The only one that might be used is, well, not even death, to be honest. Let me think about that. We don't usually destroy monsters on the field, but in this case we will. So this is a very rare instance of that happening. Most of the time we just leave the monsters on their field with their dead sprite, but I think that'll look a bit crowded if these monsters keep dropping flags everywhere. Although it might look cool. Like, I've talked about before, but I'm like, leaving the remains of all the deaths of the monsters in each stage as you kill them off, and then if you walk back to the area, you're like, oh, there's been a kind of an onslaught here. This is what happened. Like, it kind of leaves that feeling, so maybe we keep that. Maybe it just becomes like a broken flag. We just don't want it to be too noisy, where the player would get confused, like, oh, is this flag alive or not? We just have to make that very clear. And I think we can. So I think for now we'll have something like this. The idle animation will probably have a couple layers or a couple frames because, well, it's probably going to be waving around in the wind. That's what the flag does. So yeah, I would like to eventually add a flag like sound effect. It just goes like whoosh 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 while it's like on the field. Might be something fun to do eventually. So we'll have to make a quick graphic for that. I think I'll just actually make one real quick. It's not that hard. It's just a flag. Probably put like a skull or crossbones on it kind of thing. Make a few animation frames where it looks like it's waving in the air. Wind. We could do that pretty quick, right? So let's get a 4x4 frame sheet going. That is 24 by 24 pixels each side. So that's 96. We need 16 frames of animation total going down, so that's 384 tall. Okay, go ahead and do that. And we'll start up here. Let's get the basic graphic drawn. I want it to look pretty bold, like I want it to stick out when it's on the field. So I think when we create this flag, we're gonna have it be glowing a little bit. So probably use a bright yellow or maybe even a red color, like something that really pops, right? So maybe the circle underneath it will be this color. I want to like kind of stick out of the ground, so to speak. And then maybe this color for an outline. I think that will really like highlight that this is here, like this. And I don't know, it might look better to have it be a circle on the ground instead. Let me think about that. With the perspective of how the game looks, I think this would be a better fit. Okay. So then let's get... The flag would be kind of tiny here. I might push it back a little bit. Yeah, let's go back a tiny bit so we get a little more width on it. Okay. That way we're basically using all of our space to draw this thing. Alright, so that's going to be our base for our flag. Let's go ahead and get it filled in, and maybe add a little bit of something showing a tiny bit of like waviness in it. Maybe like that. So that'll be like the cut. Then you have a very close color that matches it on probably this side, because the background should be a little darker. So maybe, no, maybe it is this side. Okay, so that looks fine to me. So next, we want to put a little icon on it. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It's probably not even really gonna be legible, but something simple, maybe like, like an X or something would be quite simple and pretty legible, right? Obviously it would be folded a little bit if it's curved in like that, so that might be a little taller. But something... Is this creeper face? What is creeper face? This is pretty close, right? I mean, anyway. So with that, I think that's good enough for now. We can mess with it more later. I think that's good enough. I don't know why I'm doing only... Wait, I just did a 12 by 12 sprite. No wonder I felt so constricted. Oops. This is supposed to be 24 by 24. Well, now I feel dumb. I'm like, what is going on? Okay. Well, that's the idea. Let's redo it. Okay. Try it again. So, more like we're gonna have it sit on the ground somewhere around here. Be like a circle, kinda. A circular patch. Did I use orange? I think I used orange last time. Anyway, we'll just go with that. Oh, I think I made the outline yellow after. That's what it was. Not red. I think I like this better. It's more bold. So we'll stick with that. I do like the idea that it's slanted a little bit. And once again, I want to bring it back so we have some room. Although it would have been nice if it was centered, like this was centered, but we can have a sprite offset. We actually have some code that does that for us. So we can have a sprite offset just fine without much issue. We kind of want to follow this going back, kind of like a up-down variance on the flag itself. And that'll be where the fold is. Yeah, that's right. So this here should be darker. I think I used the wrong color. I want to use like a slightly darker color here. And then what's beneath is darker. And then everything else is that lighter color again. Something like that. It's not too noticeable. Maybe I have to do a little more contrast there. I want it to really show up. Yeah. That should be fine. And then we place our little symbol on it. So we actually have room to do the symbol now, so that's kind of nice. Let's just try to draw what we want. Again, it would be nice to have some kind of like death skull crossbones kind of thing going on, if we can. So the rough outline of that would look something close to this. So try to make it work out of these pixels somehow. See if we can get something semi-resembling that. I think we could really highlight these guys. Let's see. That might work. Let's see how this goes. If I can get the highlight for this to be really strong, it might actually work. Let me see. It's too messy to really tell. Like, I can't really get the eyes to show up right without sacrificing this part, so maybe we simplify it like this. I think that looks good. I like that. That's pretty close to what we want. So I think we'll stick with that. I do have to warp it a little bit because if it's gonna follow the flag though, so I just wanted to get the general idea of what I was doing here. So I'm gonna move all these pixels down a little bit. Kind of like that. And then we will make a couple animation frames of this. Then we should be good. So for it to be waving in the wind, this fold kind of flows farther to the right, and it will keep going in that direction the whole way, and then another fold will start from here on the third frame to kind of make this continuous, like, flowing flag. At least that's the idea. Hopefully that works out. So first I'm going to put this back so it matches again. I'm going to try and move the fold of this flag a little bit. And with that, I would technically be bringing the whole flag moving over. So let's go... Let's say it goes to about right there. Everything else kind of has to wave with the new changes, so the flag kind of reforms to follow it. Kind of like this. And let's just get rid of that. And then the part we're gonna cut here a little bit is right there. So the way this one works is one of these actually gets hidden and the others just kind of appear down here because it's like squished now. They also technically would appear darker, at least a little bit, but I don't really have too many shades to work with. So if we went darker, it would look something kind of like this and like this. So that could work. I might just give that illusion a little bit, or sell the illusion. So yeah, I like that. And then the next one, the fold gets put pretty much near the end of the flag, and another fold pretty much starts to develop here. This part of the flag will move upwards, and then after that, we'll have a little more movement. There'll be a fold here. There will be no more fold on this side, and then the loop will complete itself. So I think that's how this is going to work. So this starts going up, probably like this. This part all comes down. Say this part goes up. So again, this little fold we made moves again. We'll say it's here now. Maybe a little more, since the flag itself is raised there. It's a bit much though. Maybe come back a little bit. Okay. So somewhere around there, I think is what we're working with. And it already looks pretty good in that sense. Like, the warp actually still works for this one, because... Or maybe we can go straight across if we want. This one, it might be better to just go like this. It's pretty much a straight shot. So that already looks pretty good. More or less. And for the final one, again, a fold will now appear on this end. This fold will disappear, and here, the flag in the middle will remain fine. So I think that'll work for now as a decent animation. It's not perfect, and it's gonna be a little stuttery, but it will work. And I'm fine with going back later and revising it, of course. So, I think that looks right, more or less. Yeah. It will look weird if I don't adjust these though, so we're gonna have to raise these, lower these again, do some of that. I think these will stay. These definitely go up though. Up, down. Okay. It's a little messy, but I'm making it work. This is also why I usually commission my sprites, because not only does it take me a long time, but I'm also not an artist, so this isn't really a great use of my time. But hey, it will work for now. I think this part wants to rise up a little bit. I just want to add a little bit of shift there to indicate that's about to flap over. Yeah. So, something like that. It's not quite smooth, but it's good enough. It will work. Also, it's a little warm in here. Let me see if I can cool it down real quick. Just a little warm. Alright. So this is the Skeleton Captain flag. Now, if I wanted to, instead of saying this is a four-way sprite, this is literally just a one-way sprite sheet. So if I set this to false, I only have to do 4 rows instead of 16 rows, which I think is fair for a flag. It's not going to have any facing directions, that's for sure. So the second animation, again, these are not going to matter for the other animations. Then we have death. So on death, we actually need it to like break, and then it'll just sit there, broken. And I think I want to make it like gray so that it's like clear, hey, this is now broken, and it doesn't provide any benefits. So that would be nice as well. This one can go away though. We don't need these or these. These rows don't matter. So, we want it to like collapse kinda. I would like it to just break from the pole. I'm trying to think how I would accomplish, let's see. Do a little bit of squishing. Don't lock. Do a little bit of that. And I think we will also rotate it as well. Let's go ahead and rotate them pixels, so that it kind of just falls and snaps off like this. So let's go start doing that. And I want this to fade out to gray. Oh, where'd you come from? Let's see. I don't know the shortcuts for the scale and rotate tool. They are Shift S and Shift R. Okay. Very obvious, actually. Okay. Let's do that. Just gives me something very simple to make a mess of pixels with. and basically it needs to look like a mess, just like ratted out flag mat on the floor, right? That's really all we care about here. Although I will have this side drop a bit more. This can drop here. A little bit of scale. Here we go. And now we're gonna make these gray, I think. Soon. Or now. I kind of want to fade out the actual flag too. Like I said, I want it to be as non... Excuse me. I want it to be as non-noisy as possible, because if the player is going to see these on the floor, it's like, we want to make sure the player's like, oh, that's not an active flag. Why is this not center aligned with the rest? Okay. Anyway. Yeah, so maybe let's desaturate it. Yeah, that will work. I like that. I have to match those colors, but I can do that easily. I can index those in a second. Gonna go with that one. And yeah. That's more or less where we want to leave it. It's kind of dull looking. Okay. Let me just index it real quick so it's not using colors outside of this thing. Okay. So it converted those for me as close as it could. So we're good. And that's it. Should be 96 by 96. And now that's the captain flag ready to be used. So we have to add in a strategy for it. And one of the properties of it is what is its range and how much of a haste buff does it give. Now we could argue that the skeleton captain could have these properties, but it's really the flag actually providing the buff, so the flag itself probably should have the range as well. So haste buff range, we said in the spec it's going to be 600 range, 600 units, and that it will provide a 30% haste buff. Haste buff 30%. And the way I'm probably going to do this is every second it's going to check for monsters within range and apply a maybe like a 5-second buff to all monsters nearby. And then it will keep reapplying it, like it will delete and replace that buff over and over. So we'll create a special buff type so that if monsters get haste from other sources, it's not going to conflict with the flag haste buff. It'll be like its own special haste buff. So we'll have to implement that as well. That's just kind of part of this. So also we're still in the skeleton archer branch. We need to move branches because we shouldn't be modifying this one anymore. Let's make a new branch and bring the changes with us. So this is supposed to be for the skeleton captain. Skeleton captain branch. New features, new branch. Always. So we'll bring the changes over, like we're still just working in it anyway. And the skeleton archer branch was the last branch we merged with master, so it is up to date. There's not really any reason not to start from there. And so we can begin writing some code to implement these AI behaviors. The flag can be destroyed. Oh, the ability has 20-second cooldown time and won't be used if there's still a flag up. I did ask my game designer if he wanted it so, like, globally there could only be one flag up at any time, or if every skeleton captain could place down a flag. And if they could, would they do it smartly, or would they just could they just like stack them up next to each other and be dumb about it? Because they could be smart about it. If one skeleton captain places a flag, another one can be like, hey, I want to place another one like nearby here, but not directly close enough to where it already impacts units already in it. They could do that and make a flag chain or something. So that's another way to go about it. He hasn't replied with what he wants yet, so in the meantime, I'm just going to go with the dumb AI behavior, and I'm going to assume that every skeleton captain can have its own flag on the field. So we'll keep a weak pointer that keeps track of which flag was last placed down. So, flag cooldown time is 20 seconds. Okay. So now we're ready to start implementing this new monster. And technically it's 2 monsters. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to our strategies. If I go into runstrategy.h, there is a list of every monster strategy in the game that we load in. So I'm going to create 2 new entries. We provide a human readable name for the entry. In this case, I'm going to call the first one the skeleton jousting. I don't know if I said jousting or jouster, but I definitely didn't call it skeleton captain, so that's wrong. Where's my monsters file? I'm gonna put you back. I called it skeleton jouster, so that's what I'm gonna use because it's more generic. It's a jouster movement, but I guess it's also the skeleton captain ability to drop a flag, so maybe I should just call it the skeleton captain AI after all. Because I was thinking about, I'm like, I could make it generic, and maybe it could be used for another jouster-like unit, but then we also have to drop the flag, which is its own behavior, so this ends up being the skeleton captain AI anyway. And we're going to create a new class for it, or a new function for it. So each of these is its own function. It's going to be skeleton captain. And then we're also going to make one for the flag. We just called it skeleton captain flag. Same thing. With these 2 new entries, we have to make new source files for them. At least I like to. So this is a sample source file containing almost no AI code. And we're just going to make a new CPP file called skeleton captain. It should append the file extension. Thank you. And then one more for skeleton captain flag. Okay. Make sure I spelled it right. Rename these. It also looks like it doesn't recognize these names yet because I have to actually make the functions themselves. They should be static functions available in Monster Strategy, so we're going to have to go there for that. If I can back up for a minute. So while we've done this, we have not actually created the strategies yet, so we're going to go to the Monster Strategy struct and add them in here as well. In theory, I should make these into a macro someday. That would be nice. That will do all this manual typing for me in a lot of places, but that's for another day. So now those names will at least get recognized, so I can reduce the amount of typing I have to do. So here's our skeleton captain function. So the next thing on our list is to actually implement the behaviors. So I'm actually going to start with the flag because it's a little easier to work with. The flag itself has 2 behaviors. It's looking for any non-boss monsters, and it's giving them a special buff. So, now I wonder if these buffs should be unique to each target. So it's like, yes, I'm giving you a buff, but I'm also going to remove it and apply a new buff to you again and again and again. Like, they could be unique identifiers, but then I'd have to keep track of those buffs, and I don't know if that's a good idea. With the way buffs are handled, I want to say it's not the best way. Unless we only apply them like once every second and keep applying them once every second to everybody. I guess that doesn't really hurt. Then they'll expire, but they'll immediately get it back. I don't really see a problem with that, to be honest. Just every second give a buff. 1 second. And the buff only lasts a second. That's not a bad idea. So maybe we'll go with that. That way, if there are 2 flags next to each other, maybe they stack up. Like, that would be an interesting mechanic, right? If 2 flags are next to each other, they provide haste buffs for other monsters. Ooh, there's a sick synergy as well. Also, was there anything that said, okay, so any non-boss or skeleton captain skeleton unit? I'm just gonna mention this too. Also, if two flags do happen to be dropped next to each other, they aren't bosses, so... or skeleton captains. So the idea is they would also give the haste buff to each other, which means the haste flags would be giving haste buffs more quickly to other things. And if they give them more quickly, then does that actually matter? That means they can provide a 1 second haste buff every like 0.7 seconds, which means it would be a stacking haste buff. Like they would get multiple haste buffs, and these would keep stacking and stacking. That sounds insane. But I guess if we don't consider them monsters, right? So we could add a property that says, hey, they have to be monsters, or we just add an exception that says, okay, they're not... Yeah, we just add an exception that ignores them. So I don't know. Right, they give buffs, which means they could stack if not replaced. A lot of potential silliness if we allow more than one on the map in the same effect radii, effect circles. That sounds insane. Like they could... Yeah, I was just writing that out for our designer to just think about these things as we're coming up with them. It's like, now that we're getting into the implementation details of this monster, it's like, okay, there could be some problems if we allow certain behaviors to occur. So if we allow multiple flags to be on the field, technically they could buff each other if they're considered monsters. So the easiest solution would be, don't let flags be considered monsters. That way they don't buff each other if two get close to each other. Then there's the other question of, do we even want to allow two on the field in the first place, or is only one allowed for the whole map? So there's that as well. So a lot of little things to consider here. And I'm just throwing all that at my designer so he can decide, hey, this is the executive decision, this is what I want, or this is the interaction I think would be most interesting for this game. Because it could be interesting if flags just started buffing each other and that increased the speed at which it buffed other things, which means they would have stacking haste buffs. So, I mean, but anyways, the job of this thing is to haste buff every second. So we're gonna start a running timer. We can use any timer really. I'm looking for like a cooldown timer or something. I need to do using a equals attribute because right now a equals array. So by doing that, we force it to now use these instead. And we're looking for like a cooldown or a timer. So yeah, we can do attack cooldown. I think that's fine. The attack cooldown is literally how often it can buff. So we're gonna decrease it by elapsed time. And every time it's less than or equal to 0, so the moment the flag is put down, it's going to buff everything around it because it starts at 0. And that's fine. I think the moment a flag is put down, it should try to buff whatever's in range. So we're going to loop through all the monsters and reset the cooldown. The cooldown is going to be reset to its property, which is the haste buff. Wait. I guess we should say like the haste buff frequency, but really it's just gonna be every second. I'm just keeping that internal, like this is how I'm making it work. Like every second it's gonna try to do this. So we're gonna loop through all monsters, so we're gonna need monster list. I'm gonna go ahead and I think we already have defines, so we can include game. We're gonna need game because it gives us access to, well, actually we need monster list. I don't know if we'll need game, so let's grab monster list. And we'll iterate through that. I believe we get shared pointers out of this. So we'll look at those. monster M in monster list. We're also going to filter out certain monsters. So we don't want dead monsters. We don't want skeleton captains. And we don't want any bosses. So bosses are out of the picture, non-skeleton captains, and they have to be in range. So we're going to check all that. We can do the range check after the initial filter, though. So I'm going to use a view for this. I do like me a little modern C++. So we're going to include the ranges library. Then we're going to go ahead and put a pipe symbol, and then we're going to do standard views filter. That's going to get a view of the monster list that only contains items that accept this criteria. So we're going to go ahead and filter out monsters that are bosses. So return monsters that are non-bosses. So not M is boss. I believe we just have a variable called isBoss, and it's private, so it's not going to show up in IntelliSense here. So it needs to not be a boss, and the name, I guess the display name in this case, has to not be equal to a skeleton captain. I'm trying to think if it would be smarter to filter out any monsters that have the skeleton captain strategy, because technically they would be skeleton captains, right? Like, they're capable of throwing down a flag, and if they're capable of throwing down a flag, then they are part of the strategy of, hey, don't count me in this group. I think that's the smart way to do this. So we're going to do get strategy name is now equal to skeleton captain, because then we are filtering out any skeleton captain like enemies as well. They won't be affected by this either because they're going to be dropping flags, or they have the capability to drop buff flags. So they need to not be a boss, they need to not be a skeleton captain, and they need to not be dead. So we have to make sure they're alive. So we're going to say is alive, and we're not buffing dead things here. Sorry for anybody that's interested in buffing the dead. We're not doing that this time. And so now, with those out of the way, we're going to check for any monsters that remain if they are in range. So they have to be in range of this buff. So if M distance from us... Oh, we can't get ourselves right now because we used the same exact letter. Let's just do other monsters. Or let's just say target. Yeah, we'll just do target. I think that makes perfect sense. So we're going to do if target get distance from us and our position is less than or equal to the range. So now we're going to grab from our configuration. It's going to be config float. I think we'll need our monster strategy helpers here. Yeah. So monster strategy helpers contains all the code that lets us quickly access configuration variables. So we do that, and then we go back here. You can see the macro is now populated, and we're looking at the haste buff range. So it needs to be less than or equal to that range. And if it is, then we get to buff the unit. We're just going to apply or add a buff to the target. Add buff, buff type. We want to add a haste buff. Duration is going to be 1 second long. And maybe we want to make the duration a variable in case we want to change that later. So I'm going to make a const int or float haste reapply time is 1 second. Excuse me. So then we're gonna do this and do that here. And now We just need how powerful the buff actually is, and that's going to be the haste buff configuration variable divided by 100. So config float again, it's just haste buff divided by 100, and it will add that buff to the monster, and the flag will just keep doing this over and over until it's dead. When it gets killed, this AI stops running, it stops applying haste buffs. That is all. Otherwise, it just runs the idle animation, it will run the death animation when it gets destroyed. Plain and simple. Also, did we take out the game pack because we got new assets? We did. Good. So, the next thing to do is to start working on the actual captain itself. So the captain itself, we're gonna kind of use the wolf code because it's kind of like a jouster. Similar idea. Very, very similar. Also, I went ahead and made the bitrate for the YouTube stream a lot higher today because I realized that it was really bad yesterday. Like, I'm sorry, but I fixed it all up, and so from now on it will be a much more viewable experience. So hopefully that works out. It looks like it worked out. I can see the bitrate is a lot higher, so that's good. And we're running at 60 FPS instead of 30. So, perfect. So I'm going to be looking at the Wolf AI, because the Wolf AI is very much fundamentally what we need to do. As it's got the run towards the player, the circling, and even the speed buff part. It's got all of that for us. So it's pretty good about all of this. The only thing that I think we have to really deal with is the run back stuff. So I'll be completely honest, this code is probably going to be copy-pasted for the most part because it has all the properties we would be interested in having. It is very old though, so I used magic numbers for each phase versus using enums to describe them by name, so that's the only thing. At least I labeled them with comments, so there's the relegating factor. Other than the tisk, we did not use enum names for these. We could make them actually be enum names when we put them into the actual skeleton captain code. So I think we will do that. That will be our little side project here. So this is all the wolf code basically replicated. In order to use those things, we have to bring in monster strategy helpers. That will give us access to almost all the code we'll need, or all the references we'll need. The only things we're missing now are the config stuff, I think. Yes, because these have to be attributes. So we're going to say using a equals attribute here. I think what I should really start doing is assuming that if we include monster strategy helpers, it disables the A. Like, we should have undefined A here, in my opinion. And then we say using A, or actually even better, we just put this in monster strategy helpers. I think this makes the most sense. Because if we're going to do any of this, we're going to need attributes. And if we're going to need attributes, using A equals attribute goes in there. I think that makes the most sense. Hopefully none of the other code gets messed up because of it. We're also going to have to include game for this. Okay. We should be good to start messing around with this. So, let's see here. Oh, we're going to need Adventures in Lestoria, of course. So include that too. I think game was included, just not Adventures in Lestoria. That makes sense. No, we still need it. Never mind. So, let's make an enum for these phase names so we're not getting confused anymore. So enum phase, and we'll just call them for what they are. So we have run towards, run underscore towards, that's one. Then we have charge the player, so this is the actual charge. Then we have the recovery, And then we have the disengage. So the disengage is... I don't even know if we really have a the disengage is the turnaround. So I'm gonna call it the turnaround here. While the disengage for the dog was literally to run away, for this it's not. It's actually a turnaround for the monster to begin another charge. So again, first we have the run towards the player. We're gonna grab all of these things because we're gonna need them all. So let's go to the wolf strategy. Let's grab these guys. And we already included some things here, so the lock-on range. Let me see. Was it described as a range? The captain speeds up over 1 second to a 50% movement speed buff and charges in the player direction. I think it just keeps charging at you, regardless of how far away you are. So we're not going to worry about a lock-on range. The lock-on speed boost. So this is going to increase as we go along. So instead of this being a lock-on range, we're just immediately going to go to phase 1, I guess. So really, we don't need the run towards phase. We're just always going to be charging, right? It's going to be charge, recovery, turnaround time. Charge, recovery, turnaround. Charge, recovery, turnaround. So really, this phase doesn't exist. Also, these numbers need to be replaced with the actual phase names. Charge, recovery, turnaround, heart. Okay, and we're just gonna do... Assuming we've already done this, so we're just gonna take these variables and we're gonna set them right away. Let's just say the lock-on speed boost. So this thing actually needs to increment over time. It says it speeds up over 1 second to a 50% move speed buff. So that's gonna be the jousting speed up time. So how should we implement this? We can make it so every like 0.1 seconds, we set the power of this move speed buff to a higher value. So we can constantly give and take away this speed boost buff until it reaches the maximum it needs to. So basically, it's charging in the player's direction. Run. It already has determined its target. So target timer will be 5 seconds from the start. So let's just call that the initialize, right? So, or better yet, it's going to be refreshed every time at the turnaround, but I guess going back to the initialize or initial phase would be good. The initial phase is like the reset. Reset of variables. And that includes these, like so. Okay. So we're not going to do the lock-on speed boost here because we're going to be incrementing it over time. Also, this was supposed to be here too. This is the lock-on position. It's going to be based on wherever the player is standing when it begins. It looks like we have it going 20% past the player as well, which is also interesting. And I mean, that's fine. I don't think that's a huge issue. But yeah, when it chooses to charge, we also have to consider the animation itself. So the animation will play, which is the charge animation right here. So that will play as well at this point. So I'm just going to say perform. It should be the attack animation or shoot animation. Same thing. It will figure out that that's indeed the shoot animation. Okay. Again, a lot of stuff going on right now. So the target timer is how long it will attempt to charge. Once it gets close enough to the target, or the target time reaches 0, it begins the recovery time. So this is when it makes it past the player, essentially. I think for this, we're actually gonna be smarter about it and just go straight for where the player was. And then immediately begin the slowdown and turnaround. So, the speed up though, let's see here. So we just need to go straight for the player position, period. No extra bells or whistles attached to that. Lock on speed boost, not gonna do that here. We're gonna increment it over time. Keep removing it and adding it. So it will be a remove buff from us, just in case we have it. And then we're going to apply this buff based on how much time has passed. So we know we have a second. So I'm gonna add a timer. Let's call it the chase timer. I guess that's a good one. Started at 0. And the chase timer is gonna increment over here. So with the chase timer incrementing, that'll determine how fast the speed boost is supposed to be at this point. So we have our move speed buff total percent, which is 50%. It's going to be divided by 100. And then the amount this actually applies is based on the ratio of this versus total time passed. So we're going to multiply this value by taking the whichever is smaller, either the chase timer or the configuration value called jousting speed up time, and whichever one is greater is going to be the value used that we divide by the jousting speed up time, as that is the maximum amount of that this value could be. So it's now a ratio, and that ratio will then be multiplied by whatever the move speed buff power is supposed to be. So it's going to go like, okay, 10%, 15%, 20%, 25%, 30%, until you reach 1 second, where it's going to be 1 divided by 1, which means it's a full 50%. And once that happens, pretty much good to go. Don't have to implement this much further. The monster will just now have this buff. So after that, we have the target timer. We're moving. Okay. And then once we've hit it, we're not going to perform the idle animation. Oh wait, we will perform the walk animation though, because we'll just be walking in place. Is it just perform run? Let me see. Perform... Is it jump? Really? I didn't realize it was called the jump animation. But indeed it is. Yeah, that's very fascinating. I didn't think it was called jump, but I think it makes sense for certain monsters. Like, let me see. I think in the early days, we had a jump animation, right? Yep. And it was the second one. So traditionally, it has become what's called the jump animation, even if we use it for other things now, which is hilarious. It's just kind of a carryover from that. So anyways, get close enough. Run, stop. So lock on speed boost is not used at all. Charge recovery time. So we have the jousting slowdown time, which is going to be the opposite of what we were doing earlier. I am deleting these comments, by the way, because our phase names are descriptive enough now. So for the recovery... I'm not going to use this one, we're going to use the jousting slowdown time. Again, we're just kind of adapting this AI to our own flavor. So the recovery time will start going down until it hits 0. And as it's going down, it's going to apply a move speed buff that is slowing down to that value. It slows down to its normal speed over 2 seconds. Okay. So the speed boost now goes from providing an extra speed up to providing a speed down. So again, we're going to have this constantly updating speed down, speed down, speed down, speed down, this time going the other way. So we know we started at the jousting move speed buff value, and we're going back down to the... It looks like it's counting down this time. So it's starting at the 2-second mark in this case, and it's counting down to 0. So how can we utilize that? We have to take the recovery time, and we divide it by the maximum recovery time. This gives us the ratio of how much of a speed boost should remain. The maximum speed boost amount is supposed to be jousting move speed buff divided by 100. So if we do jousting move speed buff divided by 100, multiplied by the ratio of these two values, then what we end up with is the percentage of this buff to use. So as recovery time counts down to 0, this gets smaller and smaller until it's basically nothing, which means the speed boost is effectively going to provide no movement speed buff whatsoever. So at this point, we can simply remove it, and we start the disengage. Now the disengage is not even much, it's just something to get us to turn around, right? So it's like a movement in a certain amount of degrees. Now, we have a turn rate, a turn speed with 180 degrees per second. So what is this supposed to be for? It's how much we turn. So do we use that, or do we use something else? The disengage range is 800 though, which is really high. So we probably don't want that. And the amount of time to spend disengaged is also really high. I think the turnaround time is going to be a lot less. Turns in a circle and starts adjusting attack again, but there's no specific amount. I just think 800 is a lot, so let's make it very small. Let's make it only a couple hundred. Maybe like 200. And we'll make the duration be 2 seconds. I think that's a fair amount. So 200 range for 2 seconds. I think this will roughly give us what we want. This means the turn speed value is not actually valuable, but we'll see. And I'm going to change all these magic numbers for set phase into our enums now that we've corrected them. The magic numbers were just a side effect of old style coding when the project was first beginning, because this was one of the first few enemies, so... Or at least the code this AI was copied from was old. So, once we're done here, we have to go back to the initial phase where we reset everything. Reset the chase timer, figure out our target position again, set a target timer, change to charging mode again, and go at it one more time. Do it all again. I think everything else here works. We're just gonna have to try it and see what happens. But most of the code was pretty transferable. The only things I changed were the application of the move speed increase and decrease buffs. So let's now go over to our monster tile set and add in something to place down skeleton captains. So under our monsters tile set, we'll use our placeholder assets for now. Yeah, just some silly sprites that make up this. I also realized the idle animation doesn't even have the guy on the... That's funny. Maybe I'll just copy this real quick. I'm like, that's kind of an oopsie, but again, just very quickly put together placeholders for the sake of making this work. So we're gonna bring this guy over, place you here for the time being, and then, oh, I forgot the scaling. We do the scaling inside the maps too, so we realistically know what the sizes of them are. It's a little detail I forgot about, so when I add it this time, I'll include the scaling. But basically, when I go to my monster tile set, right here, when I add them in, I'm going to scale the width and height to represent what the actual size will be in-game. So right now the width and height is 48 by 48. So I'm actually going to do 48 times 1.8 because it is 80% larger, which makes it 86.4. So that is what I'm going to set its size to. 86.4 by 86.4. And that's roughly what the size will look like in-game. So I like to do that so that when you're placing these on the map, they look like they're from the game itself. So this is going to be Skeleton Captain. It's going to inherit the monster class. And let's make a template. And then we go to Chapter 4.1. Get rid of our skeleton archers, and we're replacing them with our skeleton captains. I'm actually only going to put one for now. That way I could really hone in on what their behavior is like. So if I have 3, it's going to be a little confusing. I'll be trying to track too many things. So with that implemented in game now, it's time to finally build everything and try to run it. See what happens. Hope for the best. Ooh, this is like a complete rebuild. Probably because it had a lot of changes. While I'm waiting for that, I will be right back. Alrighty. We have errors. Oh no. Attributes and undeclared identifier. Oh, okay. Well, we'll include it then. It's just attribute.h, right? Attributable? Attributable is from attribute. Attribute is from monster data? What? Wait, I'm so confused. Oh, wait. Yes, monster attribute.h. I almost tricked myself. Okay, so monster attribute needs to be included. If we want to include this elsewhere, I forgot I made this change, but it's because I wanted to make it so I don't have to include this line every single time I'm writing a monster AI anymore, because I don't think that really makes sense, all things considered. So it looks like this actually builds now, with that fixed. And we are going to look at, monster skeleton captain flag. Oh, I called it captain flag instead of skeleton flag. Skeleton captain flag failed. Did I not save in the right place? Oh, I didn't put it in commercial assets, that's why. That's my fault. Alright, that's a redo. Hello there, Michael Barnes. My day is going well. I hope yours is going too. Yes, just a wonderful day of working on my game, programming. It's going well. I don't think it actually made the game pack, it just kind of broke trying to add this in, so should be good now. Here we go. Yeah, we're testing out another monster behavior we just hopefully finished implementing, but we have to see how it actually fares. Let's take a look. Sprites are placeholders, but that's fine for testing purposes. Let's see. So there's a charge. Okay. The charge is not quite as far as I would expect. I would expect it to go a little further. I think it's just because... I wonder why it's like kind of short. It looks a little short. Let's see. Okay, so we do cut it a little short. We say if distance to target is less than 12 units. So that is about half a tile. No, that's a full tile away from where we want. So let's say the distance to target. I think this is just to make sure that, like, hey, we're close enough, but we might not exactly hit that tile exactly. So I think that's the reason why I initially extended it. So maybe we'll go back to extending it. My game seems interesting. Oh, thank you. It's fun. Action, adventure, like retro style kind of RPG game. It's fun, just working on a lot of content for it. It's quite a large project for one person to tackle, so... Although I'm technically not alone, I do have my game designer, who came up with all the initial concepts and all the monster ideas and such. He also works on the maps occasionally. And I do commission pixel artists to do the actual pixel designs once the monsters and concepts are fully developed. So, yeah. There's a little bit of extra work going on behind the scenes, but in terms of all the programming, I have to handle all of it, and it is a lot. But it's also a lot of fun. Programming is very gratifying once you actually, you know, get stuff done. So, I think the idea here is I want to draw a line from the monster to the player. And the reason why I want to do that is once I have the line, I can actually extend the line. And there's a function, I think it's... Excuse me. I'm still recovering from a little bit of sickness. Just a little bit left, but I'm at the tail end of it, so... given a unit distance, get a point along the line. This is given a real distance, get a point along the line. So I think what I want to do is extend this line after I get an initial distance by some amount. I think that's why initially I did 1.2 times the distance. And I could do it again, but I think the more proper way to do this is to say, okay, first actually get the position of the player, and then establish a new lock-on position by extending from the current lock-on position. So from the monster to the lock-on position, let's extend by another 12 pixels. That way, if we're checking for a distance less than or equal to 12 pixels, then we're making sure we're actually jumping to at least our target point, our target ideal distance. So we're going to add 12 units to the line. This game will be available on Steam for probably... It's still up in the air, but I think right now it's probably going to be available for $10 or $11. But of course, when it goes on release, it will be on sale, so it won't be quite that much. But the game will also feature a demo, so the demo's already out and allows players to play the first chapter of the game. So it gives players a chance to see if they really want to spend $10 for a game on like this to experience the rest of the content. This game has a lot of labor of love put into it and has been developed over the course of a couple years, so at the very least, I think it deserves a price tag. I don't think it quite falls into the realm of free games, given how much work and effort was put into it, so that is the plan. Let's see if this guy actually wants to walk a little further than before. That doesn't seem to be the case. Oh, maybe it is. Let me see. Okay. I don't think so. It doesn't feel like... It needs to be well past the distance, I think, is what we're aiming for. So I don't know why R.12 isn't enough, but it's definitely not enough. So let's try... Oh, you know what? It's just 12. That's what it is. I need the distance of from here to here plus the line going from here to here. Okay, this makes more sense. So whatever the distance was, I basically need the length. So I will grab the length here, and then I need to make another line that actually will point from the monster to the lock-on position, and it needs to be along this point, but this length plus 12. So a little confusing here. If I want to make it less confusing, I would take the distance separately here. Oops. And put that in a variable. That way it's a little more tidy. So this is like distance to player, essentially. And then that can just be added to here to determine, okay, the line go... Whoa! Somehow my keyboard registered that as a continuous holding down of paste. That's not good. I hope my keyboard's okay. Alright. So let's see what that looks like. I should move a lot further than one tile now. Hi there, Riozen. Welcome. Sorry, I don't really know how to pronounce that, but I'm sure you'll correct me if you want. But welcome. Currently just testing an AI behavior. Looks like it's more or less working a little better. We're charging a little further than before, but I think we want to go even further. Because I was thinking the charge should be quite a distance further than the player's at. So let's try like 2.5 tiles worth, maybe like 64 away. I think that is a good amount. But more or less, it's using the Wolf's pathing code, but repurposed for this, and I think it seems to be okay. I don't know if the speed boost is helping it. I guess we'll see. It looks like it does run faster. It could be more obvious if I actually increased the buff and saw, but I think it is working. It's kind of hard to tell because it's a 50% increase, so I might have to buff that a little bit more. Because 50% should feel pretty good. Pretty fast, I should say. Oh yeah, I can see it increasing now. For sure. You can see it like kind of charging up, basically. It's more or less what we want. Trying to think if there's anything else we really want to add to that, but not really. I think it would be nice if it could kind of update its position over time. I'm not sure. So this is the OLC Pixel Game Engine. It was created by a someone I found on YouTube called One Lone Coder, and that hence the OLC. And it's basically a very simple library, I should call it, where you can basically place pixels and basic shapes on screen and draw images, and from there you essentially can build your own game engine out of it. And so that's essentially what this has turned into, is a game engine built out of a library. You can think of it like, if you've heard of like Raylib, it's kind of like that. Very, very similar idea, just based on the concept of pixels, mostly headed by one guy. He likes to do a lot of fun, silly programming stuff. But yeah, his work and his community has brought a lot of inspiration for me to want to make my own video game, so... Not that I haven't been doing it long before, but I wanted to use his engine because of how simple it was. It was very appealing, it's very customizable, it's just brain dead simple, it's literally a single header. Like, this... The biggest sell for it, right, especially if you're making something very small, which this definitely isn't anymore, is that it's this header file that you go grab... not this, where is it? Oh, it's over here. It's this header file that you go grab off the internet and you copy paste into your editor, and then you literally load it up with some basic code. The example code is even included in the header in comments, and you basically have a working demo. Like, that's essentially what it is something very easy to work with. But in turn, you can make a very complicated project out of it if you so choose. So I've decided to go the whole route of making a Steam game out of it. And you can see it's turned into a huge project. But it is a lot of fun. Of course, there's a lot of challenges that come with it. I think the target timer should be a little less than 5 seconds. I think ideally we're only charging for maybe 3 seconds, because we're going to be running so fast. So I think I'm going to reduce that just for the sake of this feeling better. I think that's all I want to change in that regard. But yeah. Let's work on the flag mechanic now. So the other part to this monster, other than it just charging at the player over and over, is when it gets within a 150 range of any non-boss or skeleton captain unit, it drops a flag. And we already made the flag unit, so let's go ahead and try and make that happen. It would be nice if the flag like fell down onto the ground instead of just immediately appearing on the ground. I think that would be a little jarring. So I'm thinking when we create the flag, we initially set its Z to like maybe 30 or something, and then it'll just kind of fall down to the ground. So I might add some quote-unquote 3D physics real quick to the flag AI, because I don't think it won't fall down by itself if I do that, but we already have the rendering for displaying it in the air, so we might as well just add in some quick vertical physics. I appreciate it, and it is a lot of work. But it's a lot of fun, you know? It's a very satisfying process when you see your stuff come to life and you get to kind of revel in it, right? I got the opportunity to try my demo on a Steam Deck that my girlfriend got recently. So when I saw my game working on a little handheld like that, I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. It made me really want to consider finishing my game, because it's like, oh my god, I see it being played on this little console. That's so cool. I spent time making it work on that. I didn't even know it was going to work so well up until that point. I just followed Steam's developer docs that said, hey, it's best practice to do this to give compatibility for devices like the Steam Deck. So I'm like, oh, okay. I'll implement it blindly, not sure if it'll actually work. Finally got a chance to test out on real hardware, and I was very, very happy. Super duper excited. So that's just a fun little tidbit. But yeah, I'm very excited to finish the game now. Kind of had like a fire rekindled moment, because for a while I wasn't really working on the game too much, just because, you know, you work on it for so long, you get a little tired of it, you need a break, right? So It happens with every developer, especially for such a long-term project like this. This is basically going into year 3, so it's a long time coming. Okay, so the flag. If Z is greater than 0, we're going to drop it down a certain amount. We want it to fall pretty fast. It's gotta be a snappy fall. So let's just do... Let's make it fall at a rate of... Like, if I throw it up at 30, I want it to be on the ground in, like, half a second. So we're looking at realistically falling 60 pixels per second. So I'm just gonna do 60 multiplied by FElapse time. And since this is a set, we're gonna do whichever is larger, standard max. Either it's going to be on the ground, which means 0, or it's gonna be the fall rate, get Z minus the fall rate. And that will eventually place it on the ground. So then we go back here to the skeleton captain. It doesn't say, like, the skeleton captain will stop or anything to place this flag. It's probably just gonna be like a grab, drop, and go. So I think we're just gonna throw it into the always running AI here. So we're basically gonna search and detect for any monsters nearby us. And if they're within 150 range, we know we can drop down a flag, assuming the cooldown is good. So we need to implement the cooldown. So we have a variable for it right here, the flag cooldown time. We're now going to use that. So we're going to say if... I don't think we used ability cooldown yet, or attack cooldown. I want to say we haven't, but let me double check. Yeah, we haven't used the attack cooldown attribute, so I will associate with that. So if it's less than or equal to... less than? Let me think. We want to increment over time. No, decrement it over time. So if it's less than or equal to 0, we know it's ready. Yes. But we're also going to decrement it over time. So we're going to say equals whichever is larger. Either it's going to be 0, or it's going to be attack cooldown minus FElapse time. So that will constantly go down. But if it's less than or equal to 0, then we're going to try and check for nearby monsters. I think I have a function that already does this, but I could be wrong. Let's just look. I'm looking for either, like... Let's just check monsters. We have spawn monsters, update monsters. No. We could check monster itself. I don't think it has anything. I think the only functions I have for this are like hurt nearby. Yes, I have like hurt based on cone, hurt in general. So I don't really have anything that lets us detect nearby, so we're gonna have to do this quote unquote the old-fashioned way. So, which is fine. Still using, I'm gonna use views still, so still dealing with modern C++ in that regard. So we'll include the monster list so we can access all the monsters in the game. We'll go ahead and read from it. So we need, we're gonna have shared pointers coming out of this. They are monster shared pointers. We're just gonna look at them from monster list. And we don't even have to iterate through all of them because we can use a semi-modern standard library, standard lib library called ranges. And we can grab a view that is filtered from this list, provided you supply a lambda with what you want to filter out from the list. So we're going to provide the shared pointer again. And we're looking for monsters that are in range of us. So unfortunately, the M here is the same letter as this, so I think I'm going to have to switch the letter we're using here. Potentially. I don't think I can rename variables in lambdas, but let's try it real quick just for fun. I can do... Yeah, let's try it. Why not? Monster equals M. Okay, no. There was a chance, but I don't think that's how you do it. I think there is a way though. I just don't know it. I'm gonna do a quick lookup, but if it's too complicated, we'll just do it. We'll just rename the variable. But I want to see. Specifically captures. We're looking for captures, but let's see. Captures. See if we can read about captures real quick. By copy capture, yes. Can we initialize with capture? See, so I was looking at this. A capture with an initializer acts as if it declares and explicitly captures a variable declared with type specifier auto and the same initializer. Oh, so maybe? Ooh, okay. So this is actually the original monster, or in this case, the captain itself. So maybe I'm gonna call this the captain. So we can do that, which disambiguates the M here and the temporary M here, which is fascinating. Okay, so that's what I want. So now we can say, the reason why we need this is we need to do the distance from the captain, which I have a function for. And we're seeing if the distance from this monster's position is less than or equal to, and now we need the config value. So that is going to be the drop flag range. We're looking to see if they're within this distance, because if they are, we are going to do that. Now I just realized, and this is my fault, that these distances are not in they're not in pixels, they're actually in units. Game units. So the way the game units works is 100 is supposed to refer to one tile, which is kind of weird, but that's how we measured it. So 24 pixels is 100. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to do some translating, and that includes fixing the distance that was down here with the haste buff range. If the haste buff range is 600, it means it's for 6 tiles. That's its radius. So it's got a 12 tile diameter or 6 tile radius. So we're gonna have to go back and fix that because 600 pixels in my game is like 4 screens wide. It is massive. And that is not what the intention here. Anyway, so we're gonna have to go fix that as well, just a side note, and I just realized that. So we're gonna have to read this config value, which means we need to do some silly stuff, because in order to do that, we're gonna have to do get config, or excuse me, config float, I believe, which is a little tricky because now we have to, I think it's an underscore too. I don't even think this is like, I'm trying to remember how we get here, because we have to access, I think it's literally just get config float. It could just be get config even, but there's one we should be able to access. Man, I'm blinking. All right. Well, the way we figured it out though is we look at what this macro does. So it's underscore get float, which calls, what do you call? Please, can you let me in, Visual Studio? You call underscore get float, which is a static function. Okay, I see. Right, so that's what all that is. So if we want to use config float by chance, we have to provide these parameters. We need to provide the parameters, the strategy. Yeah, so we have to provide the strategy name as well, which we can pass in. That's not too hard. It's right there. So pass that in. And strategy. Yes. Okay. Now, this is not going to... This lambda will expire well, before this does, so this is okay. We ran into this issue of Lambda capturing a reference and causing lots of problems earlier because the lifetime of the reference expired before the Lambda. Not this time. Just complicated C++ isms, because we love those. So now we should be able to actually use config float, because we are passing in. Now M is wrong, so that is going to be a problem. So I'm going to change this to be to just be monster. That way M is available, and we don't have to use captain anymore. Although we could. We're just using the M from up here. Although we still have to pass it in as a capture, which is fine. And config float. So, config float. Pass in this value. And because it's a distance, we have to divide by 100 and multiply by 24. And we do this calculation a lot. So, this is very common for us to do. And what we're saying here is the distance from this monster has to be less than or equal to that range. Otherwise, we're not in range to drop a flag. Okay, so that's good. So the monster list will now be filter viewed out for anything that is within the range. If we find anything at all, and we already found out we have the attack cooldown available to us, we will perform the attack. So we'll go ahead and set the attack cooldown equal to whatever the cooldown of the ability is, which is 20 seconds. We're going to provide that as config float. 20 seconds. C++ has some crazy syntax that's beyond my level. Yes! C++ is considered a very difficult language to learn. And part of that is the syntax, yes. It gets very confusing very quickly. It's one of those languages that has so many features and yet so little at the same time. It's like it's just a very difficult language for people to work with. So why do people use it for games? It's just because it's a pretty fast language. It's considered pretty fast, and when written correctly and written well, it's very robust, as in it will stand the test of time. It's not typical that you're going to need to change much of the code. It will very much hold its ground and do what it needs to do for a long time. But it's very easy to produce bugs with. Less so than C. C is very much like, here's 10 foot guns. Which foot gun do you want to trigger first? Because you will trigger all of them eventually. Just which one do you want first? And C++ is more like, there are foot guns, but we put a floor on top of them, so you have to dig your way into them. Still foot guns, though. But the complexity of C++ is what intimidates many people to not really want to step into it. It is a very difficult language indeed. And in the right hands, it's very scary to see what it looks like when it's working, right? So, yeah. Right now, M is this, so we need to change this out for... I'm gonna call this, target, or maybe flag target, because that's what it is. Basically, we need to hold this M that we passed up here for using for the actual monster to make all this other stuff work. So in this case, I changed that. That was wrong. The attack cooldown will be set, and we'll place a flag at the position of that monster. So flag target, or rather, let's spawn a monster. So, to spawn a monster, I think we have to go to here. There it is, spawn monster. And we provide a position. So that's the flag target's position. Also, after we're done with this, we can break out the loop. We only needed one monster. In fact, I think I can even tell it to only give me the first item. That way it doesn't keep searching. Let me see about that. Because this would be new information for me and could be handy in a situation like this. Let's look at the ranges library real quick. Yeah, this is very modern C++. It's from C++ 2020, which is very new. In C++ terms, if we're in the current year, 2026, then 2023 is considered bleeding edge. 2026 is considered insanely bleeding edge, like it's not even implemented in most compilers yet. And 6 years ago, 2020 is considered new because it's basically accepted now and may be implemented in very new projects. But as a C++ programmer myself who's learning, I like to experiment with a lot of the new stuff, see what I like and dislike about it, and see if I can take advantage of any of it. Because that's always nice. So I want to view... view, yes. God. Okay, so a view that contains a single element of a specified value. I'm really not looking for a single value, though. I'm looking for the first value of whatever we've filtered. So I don't know if I can really do that. It doesn't look like I can, at least not easily. I assume maybe I can pull out maybe the first value from here? No, okay. So that's left as a mystery for now, but maybe it's something that I keep in the back of my mind as a, hey, this is something to maybe research later. You never know. Okay. So anyways, spawning this monster, we're gonna need monster data. So we're gonna have to include monster data because we have to reference the flag. So we're gonna go down here, include monster data, and that gets us access to the monster data list. So now we're going to do .at, and it accepts a string, and the string we're using is the name of this unit, which is Skeleton Captain Flag. So we're going to pull that into here. And at is just a read-only way to access a container. So that's what C++ provides. It's highly recommended to use it because it has error checking. Whereas in most languages, if you want to access something from like a map or an array, you would do these. And you can do this, but it's considered unsafe because there's no error checking. But technically it's also faster. If you wanted to really save some cycles, you could do no error checking. But we like to program safely. We're not programming a game that requires the highest performance needed in the world, so we'd rather be safe. If something is wrong, I would want my program to error out and tell me what is wrong. And it will do that. C++ has those safety features in them if the programmer chooses to use them. So anyways, spawning that monster, we'll spawn it on the same level as the monster that currently resides. So on upper level, match it. And it's not a boss spawn. There is another criteria though. Before this flag can be spawned, we have to make sure there's no other flags that already are live. So we have to check for that first as well. If we create a flag, then we can't create another flag until the flag we created previously is gone. So we need to keep track of a target flag. And so what we'll do is we'll create a variable that will do that for us. So I'm going to use the A syntax now, or I think it's, I have caps lock on, oops. The any syntax, which I created. This macro lets us set any attribute to be the any type and lets us configure it to be the type we're interested in. So, do I have anything to hold this in? If not, I will make one. Okay. So I'm gonna make a new attribute that I think will match this. Where'd my file go? Oh. I keep forgetting it's actually under monster attribute. These are all the attributes that currently exist for monsters in the game. There are plenty because monsters are very complex beings with lots of attributes. So this will be the flag ref. So essentially, we're going to hold a pointer in here. Actually, I might just call it pointer because that's what it is. So let's go back. And using attribute flag pointer, we're going to assign the flag we spawn. So firstly, we're going to see if we're going to set this to be a null pointer. Or in this case, a shared pointer with nothing in it. I think we can just do that using null pointer. Like, actually. I think that's actually a default constructor. Let's try it. Default constructor? Is that null pointer? No, it's just actual default constructor. Does that mean it's holding nothing? I guess we need to test that. So, another thing about C++ is that there's a lot of behaviors that even programmers that have been using C++ for a long time, they don't know what something will do if they use it a certain way. They just get an intuition, like, oh, am I supposed to use this in this way? Is that even a thing? And you can look it up. Like, for example, one thing we could do is we can go to standard shared pointer, CPP-ref, very important reference site when you are experienced in C++. It's not very beginner friendly at all though. So the constructor here constructs a shared pointer with no managed object, so it'll be empty. So that pretty much answers our question. It'll be empty, which means it'll be invalid, so it will point to nothing, which is what we want. That's what I was hoping for, and that's what we get. So, knowing that, and regardless of which programming language anybody uses, the documentation will always be helpful. If you're not sure what's going on, I would always consult it, even if you don't understand it. It might give you some hints or describe some weird behaviors or gotchas. A lot of documentation sites like to include things like, oh, warning, you shouldn't use it for this, or they might even include example snippets. So if you don't know how to use some code, maybe the examples will help you. Or maybe you're trying to use a certain way, it might warn you, hey, this is slow, use this instead. That might save you a lot of time. Anyways, the only reason we're doing this is because this is an any, and an any type needs to know what its type is right off the bat, so we're establishing it with a blank type that we're going to populate. So then we come down here, and we say, okay, before we can even place down a flag, we have to know, is this, we're going to have to anycast it? Yes, in C++ there's an anycast to monster, so that we can look at this variable. And anycast monster, we're going to see if it's not blank. So I believe it actually should just return fine. Let me see. So it's going to return a monster. No. This needs to cast to a shared pointer. And that, in turn, will return false if there is no... Well, see, again, I don't actually know if that's true, so let's confirm. Does shared pointer return false in a Boolean comparison? Checks if the stored pointer is not null. Okay, so if it's null, if you do if and it's null, it will return false. So that's good that we know that. Again, documentation very helpful here. And CPP-ref, if you are an intermediate or advanced C++ programmer, this is probably going to be your Bible as you continue to build applications in C++. Also, if you're new to C++ and you want to learn, there's this great site called LearnCPP. LearnCPP.com teaches you everything. It's a little bit, I will say, it's a bit more leaning towards developers themselves. So for example, it's more like, oh hey, you're going to sit here, you're going to be a programmer, you're going to learn everything, you're going to be fed many details about programming. So this isn't like, oh, I'm very, very new to like computers in general. It's going to make a lot of assumptions about that and say, you are ready to begin writing C++. Like, it's going to teach you C++, but it also assumes that you're ready to learn C++. Also, I'll be 1 minute. Okay. That was my phone. Also, am I being pinged? Okay, hold on. Let me take this. Alright, sorry about that. Just had to take an emergency phone call. Nothing crazy, but yeah. You're learning a lot? That's good to hear. I just try to explain my process as I go. Even for people that are not interested or programming in C++, a lot of the same concepts, principles, and ideas apply. We're still, at the end of the day, all programming stuff. We're still all problem solving. We have to debug. We have to think about what algorithms to implement, how to structure everything, right? It's all part of programming, no matter what language you use. So regardless of what languages people are interested in seeing, I think anybody could benefit from watching any programmer program and go through their process, their logical thinking processes, because it helps you really get in that mindset. Okay, so we are spawning this flag, and we're going to be setting, so this returns a pointer, I believe? No, it returns a reference. I don't know if the reference will lead to a valid pointer. I don't think it does, but let me check. Oh, it returns the reference to the pointer. So, if I then grab the pointer, I should have a shared pointer to this monster again. I think. So this is another one of those things, right? Where it's like, okay, I think this is what it does, but we don't just want to think, we want to know. So we're going to write an example program to confirm that this actually happens. I always have an example project ready to go, by the way. It's a good idea to have one where you can just throw down some code, see if it works. You can delete it later. It's inconsequential. So what we're going to test here is some shared pointer shenanigans. So I'm going to need to include memory. I think OLC Pixel Game Engine already does, but I'll include it here just in case. So we're going to create a shared pointer to an int. And we're going to store the number 8 in it. So I'm going to have the number 8 living here, my number. And I'm going to store it in my pointer. And so what we're doing here is we have something returning the actual place this lives in, and I believe it's going to be the same location as this int. So what we should be able to do is, if we translate that, we're like, oh, okay, I have an int reference. My int ref is equal to, oh, so let's assign my pointer to my num, which is going to assign that number and manage it. I need a pointer? Okay. And then my int ref is going to reference the value from my pointer. Now, can I turn it back into a shared pointer and it will be the same shared pointer? Will they be pointing to the same thing? We should see a ref count of 2 after this. So new pointer, brand new, is going to now say, okay, let me turn that back into a pointer. So grab the address of that reference. Do I have a ref count of 2 after this? That's what we want to find out. If we do, that means it references the same variable. Okay, so we ran it in debug mode. I put a breakpoint at the end of these lines. New pointer. So no, it only has 1 strong ref. So this is a brand new pointer to the number 8. So what is my int ref then? It points to my pointer, which has one strong ref. So this is the pointer it's pointing to. And this is the pointer this one's pointing to. So it is the same pointer. Okay, well, it's good that's the same pointer. They both live there. So if I looked at the value of this pointer, it would be 8, which is what we want. So does that mean that if I change my num, let's change it real quick, that we are now looking at it from both sides. I guess each new shared pointer counts its own refs, but can address the same object. I guess that makes more sense. That's how I should view it, is that these aren't using the same refs. Now, if I did this instead, I said, okay, I want a pointer that is a copy of that pointer. I think then I'll have two strong refs, because now they're both accessing the same thing. Yes, now I have two strong refs. So my understanding of shared pointers is mostly correct. Just when I'm referencing the same object, but in another variable, I get a brand new reference. But either way, that works. As long as I end up with the same pointer. When it comes to things related to memory, it's very important to know what your program is doing with the memory, because that can mess everything up very, very quickly. And you get bugs everywhere. So memory is a very scary thing. You want to make sure it's doing exactly what you want it to do. Anyways, because I did that, and because this returns a reference to a pointer to the same exact place where this monster came from, I can safely say that flag pointer can now be assigned to whatever comes out of here. So we can make a brand new shared pointer out of the reference that comes out of here. I don't even think I had to... Did I have to turn it into a pointer before, or did I use it as a reference? I don't even think I had to turn it into a pointer. My int ref. Oh, I did. Okay. Yeah. There are no constructors to turn a reference into a pointer. So we do have to do it this way, which is fine. Just grab the pointer again from spawn monster and keep hold of it. So basically, with this flag pointer assigned, we're basically saying, okay, now we have a way to keep track of it. So we're gonna go down here and say, okay, first off, let's anycast this to be a shared pointer, monster, flag, and we're gonna say if flag, which means it's valid, and flag, so we're curious about whether it's alive. So if flag is, oh no, we're curious if it's dead. So if the flag is dead, then we know we can spawn a new flag. So let's do it like that. So we kind of already did that here. I mean, I could... this is gonna look... This probably would look stupid if I handled it this way, but I kind of want to use the variable I created here. It's a very strange syntax because we're basically assigning the variable mid-statement, but... Oh, this only works if I do it up here, actually. I forgot. You can do this in your conditionals. You can assign a variable, put a semicolon, then put your conditional after it, but then you're also reading it like this, which is acceptable. It just looks really confusing. Whereas instead, I could have put it out here, makes it a little more readable, right? I don't particularly like the other syntax unless I'm really, really trying to squishing code together, which I'm not trying to do here. I'm trying to keep it readable. Also, this goes in initial. So, initial phase, boom. Which means all this needs to happen when the phase is not the initial phase. Although we don't reset the flag pointer every time. This is just a first time thing. So really I need like a first time phase or only once phase. Well, that's what initialize is supposed to be. So this is like, I guess the reset phase, if I really want to call it that. And then the initial phase becomes its own thing. And this is why I'm using names for the enums now. That way if I ever reorder them, the ordering's not messed up. So I can move them without any consequences. The numbers will change internally without any problems. So all I really have to do now is flag pointer gets set at the very beginning in the initial phase. That's the only thing we have to do. Attack cooldown can go down here. We can set that up. That will be a const. And we're just checking if the monster's dead or not. If they are, then we're allowed to spawn a new flag. And when we override that pointer, the next time we read it in, the flag is going to be considered alive. We can't put down another flag until the previous flag is dead. So with that all set, I think we're almost good to go. The only other thing is the skeleton flag. We have to change the radius a bit. So the haste buff range is in game units, which means 100 per tile. So I have to divide by 100, multiply by 24 to turn it into a range that's in unit tiles. And with that, we are ready to test. So if everything worked out correctly, the skeleton captain would... Well, actually, it's not going to do anything right now, other than its initial AI, because the map it's on does not have anything but one unit. So let's make another unit in here. Let's put the skeleton barbarian in here and put it on the same spawn. Okay. And then my game is compiling right now, so it's a good opportunity to do this. If the skeleton captain ends up near the skeleton barbarian, it will place a flag by it, which will buff it. If I destroy the flag, it should be able to place another flag because I destroyed the previous flag every 20 seconds. It should also not receive the buff itself because the exclusion list excludes any monster with the skeleton captain AI. And it should not include any bosses. And it can only do it to stuff that's alive. So if I kill the skeleton barbarian, it should not just randomly get more buff. I think it would also be nice if I add in a little text that will say, hey, this monster's buffed. I don't know if I have something for that right now, but let's see. I think I have to spawn the overhead text myself. Looks like there's no overload that does it for me, which is fine. We haven't really had a reason to use that before. Looks like my build is finishing now, so we get to test. And then if this is good, we'll make this our stopping point for today. I would even dare say the monster is fully implemented. We can actually merge and move on to the next monster. Tomorrow we get to do the mages, so that's fun because we get to implement the mana mechanic for monsters. There is no mana mechanic for monsters yet, so that's a whole new thing to add. Ooh, we have a bad Anycast. So we're trying to Anycast where? Okay, well, it doesn't exist yet, right? That's why. So at the very start, let's see here. So this code can't run at the very start, but has to run on every case thereafter. Oh, we also don't set the phase. That's important. But okay. Set phase to the reset phase? Okay. So how about we add a conditional that says don't do this on the initial phase. If phase initial, if not phase initial. Wait, does this return? Hold on. I think we have to say is equal to. This is just a number. Is phase is not equal to initial. There's no argument there. Don't you love macros? They have no way of warning you about if you put an argument in or not. That's funny. Yeah, I almost screwed up there. But yeah, we also forgot to set our phase to the next phase after we initialize. So that's a common problem. But yeah, we can't anycast something that doesn't have anything in it yet, because it just doesn't. We could add a conditional to it, but we didn't do that either. Alright. Oh, another thing people hate about C++, the error messages are so cryptic. It's so hard to figure out what's wrong when you're first starting out. You have no idea what it's complaining about. Even if you try to navigate call stack, you're like, why would it even try to do this? Well, it's not trying to throw a flag, so I guess it's not doing it. Let's see if we enter this breakpoint at all, because I feel like we should have at least done it once. While this guy is trying to kill me. I'm trying to kill me. Okay, so clearly, no matter how close that thing gets, it's not close enough to consider doing this. So, did I do this wrong? Divide by 100, multiply by 24. I don't think so. Well, first of all, oh, we have to add an or statement if there's no valid flag, or there is a flag and flag is dead. So either and not flag, or flag and flag is dead. I think last time we talked about that and short circuits. So let's check operator precedence. Although realistically, for something like this, I should just add parentheses. Yes, so logical and has precedence over logical or. So we have to do parentheses around this because we don't want not flag and attack cooldown to be grouped together. We want not flag or flag and flag is dead to be grouped together. Those two would have to be true for us to get in here. So initially we just don't have a valid flag. We're never going to enter here. So now it should be different. I expect this breakpoint to now trigger. I also forgot that at one point we turned on the game music, so I haven't had background music running for the rest of the time, but that's okay. I've just been yapping away, as I always do, but I forgot it's been like complete silence the whole time. Sometimes I just don't realize, you know? So we definitely hit that breakpoint right away, which is good. So now it'll be constantly checking. And when a monster is close enough... Oh, there's the flag. Oh god, it is so buffed right now. So I'm gonna destroy it. Okay, so I killed it. So now it can... Oh. Okay. It's trying to destroy a destructor while I'm still in here? Is that what's happening? Let me see. So... what is going on there? So this doesn't really tell me much. We're gonna have to run a debug build for this. Unfortunately, the release build can only tell me so much information. So... but this is concerning. It's... again, something memory related, at least that's what it looks like. So, we're gonna have to see what happened. My guess is there is a pointer, but now the pointer is invalid? Like it's pointing to something completely unrelated? That's my initial guess. But we'll see. But yeah, with that haste buff on the Barbarian, plus its own haste buff, it was going wild. So at least that was working. Like, the 600 range is massive. Dang, it's really doing a full recompile? I don't think I changed much. It's having to recompile the whole thing. I also like to tell people it's kind of a privilege when your game is large enough that you actually get breaks in between builds. When your game takes more than a minute to build. You're like, oh, I actually just get to sit here and wait and contemplate my next move. We did a lot of programming today. But yeah, debug mode takes a while, so just waiting for the console to... well, the game to load, basically. Everything's like 3 times as slow. Probably more, honestly, but yeah. It'll definitely let us debug. That's for sure. Alright, so we're gonna try to replicate it. Basically, get a flag on the field, kill it, and then wait a bit, and then it decides it's time to crash, because that's what it did last time. Yeah, very long loads in debug mode. Ugh. It's because the map is also very large. This particular one. I should get the Chapter 4 stage music implemented in the maps too. I already have the music from our music composer, just need to actually put it in there. So it already placed a flag down. So it's like, okay, let me destroy the flag, right? Okay, so the flag's dead. Now after 20 seconds it should try to place another one. At least that's what I hope it does. Okay, so here we go. So I think it basically was ready to place another flag, and then something happened, right? Okay. Well, it's calling destroy. So it's calling destroy because it's run out of ref counts, right? That's when a shared pointer gets destroyed. But why is it crashing on the destroy is the real question. None of this is helpful. I'm trying to find... This is the last bit of code it ran. So it's exiting this block and then it's destroying it. So does an any not hold a shared pointer forever? I think that's a little weird. Let's think about it. Let's see. So we any casted this to a shared pointer. It turned out to be, let me see. So this was a brand new, oh, this is blank. Everything's blank here. Or it's just a blank monster. Probably bad data or something. Let me see. Attributes. Error, error, error. Okay, so this looks like it's bad data. It just so happens that some things are lining up to look like they matter, but they're actually not. Like you can see this damage number pointer is definitely invalid. So this is just junk data. So that's misleading. Okay, I think I understand. If this monster is dead and we assign another shared pointer to here, I'm still curious, is this actually... I would think this would work, but I'm starting to think maybe that's not the case. But we're basically trying to deconstruct invalid memory. Maybe it's trying to deconstruct this? Okay, let's think about that, right? We changed any. So does it think this needs to be deconstructed and it's trying to get rid of it? But we've changed it in the middle, so it didn't get destroyed here? Maybe that's the problem, and this would be a very strange problem. I'll be for real. But let's take a look at the flag pointer real quick. So to access this, we have to do get any on this monster. So I'm gonna pull up the watches, variable watches, and do get any attribute flag underscore pointer. So if this points to something valid, let's see, not empty small. So can I cast this in here? Let me try. I hope this works. Let's see if it evaluates. It looks like things can be evaluated in here, so I'm hopeful. Any cast is undefined. Well, I guess not, huh? Okay. Let's see. I mean, there's another way to look at this. Instead of doing this and tracking it that way, we can track it by detecting any flag objects and then storing an attribute on their side that points to us, which is also possible. Or maybe instead of storing this any, I just store it as a weak pointer somewhere and take care of it that way. Let me think about that. Because if I store it as a weak pointer, it won't be owned. This won't be the last place it gets destroyed. I think that's the issue, is trying to get destroyed somewhere else, and now this is the only remaining reference to it, and I'm getting rid of it here inside of a monster list that is being updated. I think that's the problem. Okay, I remember this. This monster AI is running inside of a monster update loop. So the monster list, it's completely like set in stone right now. Every monster is in a specific spot of memory. If we decide to adjust this list during the time we are updating all the monsters, memory's gonna get screwed up so bad. And that's what's happening here, is this shared pointer is finally dying after it's technically going to be destroyed. Where does it have to go if it's the only remaining piece of memory here? The only shared pointer. I think we have to provide a weak pointer instead. That way this is never owning, which is what we want. Okay. So I think that's the new play, is we need to treat this as a weak pointer. That'll be a lot less bug prone. Okay, so we'll do it that way. We do have to grab a shared pointer to turn into a weak pointer though, when we're going in here. Either that or we find the shared pointer inside the list and grab it that way. But this makes more sense to me. So it will look like that. And then these have to be locked before they can be accessed. Well, not flag is still... it's not lock anymore, or it's not anymore, it's now expired. So if flag.expired, or, which means it has to evaluate this, and then if it's false, which means it's valid, it will see if it's dead. Okay. That's how that logic works. My hope is that that fixes any issues with memory ownership, because this here should not be owning any of the memory. Although, isn't this shared pointer dying immediately? Don't we need the actual shared pointer from the list? Does that mean spawn monster is more useful if it provides the shared pointer from the list and not the direct object? How many places would I have to change the code for this to make it work? Because here's where the pointer's being made. Oh, that's what I didn't do. I didn't do make shared, did I? That's probably why it's... See, now I'm not so sure. I really just had to find the monster that matches the pointer inside this list. Well, not monsters to be spawned, but the monster list itself, and grab it from there. It's like, I will have this, but I have to grab the shared pointer. I wonder if I can provide another version of this that returns the shared pointer itself. It would do the same thing, right? There's no reason for it not to. Yeah. I don't see why not. Why don't we make another version of this so that we have the flexibility of deciding, okay, I need this shared pointer or that shared pointer. This pointer or that pointer. And so this shared pointer is going to be a reference to whatever is being inserted in this list because it gets moved. I believe a move happens when this occurs. Let's check. It's been a while since I looked at this code, so this will be fun to see. But I assume a move was used so that it didn't get lost. Yes. So a standard move is used, which is why if we grab a reference to a monster while it's in this list, we're essentially grabbing a monster that's about to disappear when it gets spawned. That's the caveat, is it's going to be moved. The pointer will be moved, so we can't store it as a pointer. So this now makes more sense. If the pointer's to be moved, then whatever we get out of this will just be a reference to the pointer inserted in here. So I want to return that. And then we can do something with it. Although, is it supposed to be a reference? I think so, yeah. It's supposed to be a reference because it's in a container, so it's safe. And then we can just return the new monster. So, how am I linking this? I'm gonna call spawn monster, but with the shared pointer version up here. That way this remains the same and still usable. But now if I want a shared pointer version of it, I can get it. And if there's any further things I have to add, I can add them in here. But then it doesn't work the other way around, does it? Yeah, that's fascinating. If I call this, then this code won't run. It's like I have code that's common between these two, but that return different things. So I need something that will say track boss encounters. I don't know if I like that. Like, because now I have to include that in both of these. And what if I had more stuff, right? Then the name of this changes, or I have more lines to copy paste between. So I run into the same issue. But if we're being real, when am I going to add more stuff to spawn monster, right? It's just, what if these desync? Could there be a better way to do this? Like, here's the thing. What is currently using the return value of this? Does anything use it? Because maybe we'll just change it now. Okay. I see some things use it. They kind of use it on the fly, which makes sense. Oh, and a lot of test methods use it too, of course. I'm very tempted to switch it to a shared pointer. But that would be a lot of changes. I guess the question becomes, can I use it the other way? Can I use it the reference? I guess I technically can. So instead of a pointer, we could use a reference wrapper. That will stay consistent because the reference isn't going anywhere. So are we using a reference wrapper instead? Let me think if that makes sense real quick. I don't see any initial problems with using a reference wrapper, just kind of unconventional. But I really want to store the monster to reference, so... And I guess the other issue is we can't validate if it's even blank at first, can we? Can a reference wrapper be null? I assume it could be. Reference underscore wrapper. Also, it's getting dark in here. Let me turn on a light. I usually don't code this late, but today's kind of an exception. Reference wrapper. It does not have like an operator bool. So that actually might matter. Now let me turn on a light. Just something to add a little bit of ambience. while we finish up coding here. Okay. Well, it looks like it has to hold on to something because it is a reference. Object to wrap. Which makes sense. We can make it an optional reference wrapper. God, that would be insane. Is there a problem with the weak pointer part stuff not working? Did I even try this? Or did I just immediately jump to trying other code? Like, did I even try this? Or did I just stop in mid-build? I think I just stopped in mid-build, right? I must have. Probably because I, like, realized something, but then I'm like, okay, well, I still need to try and see if it works, but I think we're gonna have to investigate this next time, or figure out another alternative. Like, find a solution that actually will get us the result we're interested in. Because now it should at least stop complaining. And in the best case scenario, it actually works now. Okay. Oh. We don't even get a chance to even try. Let me see. Okay, yeah. I think that was the problem I was thinking. I'm like, that shared pointer is going to be instantly deleted because I just created it. Yeah, so the issue is we have to grab the shared pointer that is from the list. So why don't we just do that then? Maybe that's just the way we have to go. Instead of trying to grab a dead shared pointer, maybe this is just how we're gonna have to do it. Go figure. So we'll call spawn monster. It will... Interestingly enough, it's not actually going to create the monster right away. We have to wait. We have to wait. But do we want to look at the... Like, do I even have access to monsters to be spawned? Monsters to be spawned. Like, this is an internal structure. There should be no way I have access to this. Yeah, it's inaccessible. So, and we really shouldn't be touching this at all. So to look through this would be wild. I mean, I could add the logic here. It's just gonna look stupid. It's gonna be like, okay, initial, found a flag, set the flag on the next game update. Is one way we could do it. It really is. Let's see. Let's just call it, wait one tick. I'm literally just gonna make a new attribute called wait one tick. I'm like, this is silly, but technically it is a way to do it. Okay, let's see. So it's gonna be false by default. But if it's true, B is for Boolean, that's what my shorthand macro does, then we're going to search for the flag we just attempted to spawn. The reference and pointer should be the same. So there's that. Wait a second. Let's think about this some more, okay? Nothing is ever going to despawn. At least none of these things will. The flag will never despawn. If we make that assumption, then can't we just use a pointer? Like a raw pointer? right? We can just use a raw pointer. And once it's not null, it will forever point to whatever the last flag thrown was. I think that's the way we go. So this isn't a weak pointer, this is literally a pointer. A monster pointer. And that's it. It's just a raw pointer. So any cast to a monster pointer, and by default it's going to be null pointer. So we can actually just do that here. Oh wait, I'm dumb. Go back. Yes. So default is null pointer, which is 0, I think. Whatever. So if not flag, or flag is dead, then set flag pointer equal to the address of this guy. And that's it. That should be all we have to do. No more problems. Because the reference itself is stored in a certain spot in memory, and we will have access to that all the time. The shared pointer isn't brand new. It's not going to get destroyed in here. We don't have a weak pointer to a shared pointer that's getting destroyed right away. That's silly. So I think this is the play. We're just using a raw pointer against whatever this function returns, and that's always going to point to the same spot of memory because that pointer is pointing to something that's heap allocated, and that heap allocation is staying there. It's not going anywhere. Make shared makes a heap allocation, and we're keeping that. That's my line of thinking here. With that being said, once we test, I think we're going to be done, and we'll call it for today. Okay. We're back in release build. They'll be faster. Oh. A bad any cast? Why? Oh, it just doesn't exist yet. Hold on. I should cast it to the correct thing? Hello? I assume that can be counted as a monster pointer as well? I would hope so. Alright. Hope for the best. I just accidentally made it something else that wasn't a monster pointer. But I assume it's just typed for the sake of knowing what the actual base type is, but you can literally use it as any pointer. Like, you can do it as Void Star if you wanted. Don't ever do Void Star. That's a madman territory. Oh, still doesn't like it, huh? It really wants me to actually specify. Okay. I mean, that's fine. I think we can do that. Oops. I would hope. Type name is not allowed. Okay, what else could we do? If we can't do this... Because I guess null pointer is like a null pointer type, so I guess you could say 0? Or null? Like, I don't really want it to be... I guess we'll have to figure that out, right? Monster, star cast... Like... There's gotta be a way to do this, but... The fact we're using the any type is really what's sucky. So maybe, like, I still have a couple of ideas, right? We could just throw in the towel and make this return also a shared pointer that we can reference. We can make it so we have another type that returns using pointers. Like, that's simple enough to do. Let me think here. Yeah, like, what's one more, right? I'll think of a decent solution tonight and we'll implement it tomorrow. But the code we need is written, just this any is throwing a wrench in everything. Partially because of memory management. It's always memory. So until next time, this is a great stopping point though. We almost got everything implemented, so finish up that tomorrow, and we start on more monsters. More and more and more. I do not utilize memory arenas. I mostly just heap allocate away as necessary. Fun, fun. A lot of C++ STL in here. So definitely a lot more modern shenanigans than I used to do. If you're programming for like, I remember programming like Nintendo DS homebrew and doing something memory arena-ish, because it just works a lot more naturally in those kinds of environments. But here it's more the issue is the any type requires me to cast it to a certain type. It can hold literally any type, and then I originally intended to store a shared pointer because these monsters are heap allocated, but they are managed by shared pointers, which means if I want to grab them, I either need to grab the shared pointer that originally created them, or I need to reference them directly via their objects, which is what I was intending to do here, but something doesn't let me create initially this any casted monster pointer thing that I need. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do about that quite yet. So that's what I'm figuring out, but that's probably a task for another day. I don't think I've ever seen an attempt to... Let's see. Maybe I could do it this way. What if I did monster pointer blank is equal to null pointer, and have it infer the type via that. Wow. Typing. Okay. I guess it might be able to assume the type is monster pointer that way. Okay, that might actually work. There's an idea. It's kind of weird. But hey, if it works, it works. Let's see it. Alright, well, the good news is now we can actually play, so that's good. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Alright, can you stop bumping into me for 2 seconds so I can test this out? Okay, so I'm trying to kill the flag here, and when I kill the flag, there it goes. Okay, so it can now spawn new flags. Excellent. Okay, so that actually worked. Turn on God mode. Yeah, I mean that character is cheated in too, so that kind of works out. When I first built the experience system, when I got a level up, the XP amount never went up, so I just kept getting levels. Like the XP never reset, so I kept getting levels, and yeah. So that character has extra privileges, so I use it for testing most of the time. This is great though. This puts us at a very good spot. Skeleton, Captain. Unfortunately, the flag spawning is not quite working the way I intended. Like, it looks like the flag is being spawned where the Skeleton Captain is instead of its target. So I think I'm gonna change that for next time. But we got the basics in. Skeleton Captain and flag mechanics implemented. We got all that done. And this puts us at release build 12382. So we're on good pace. We're gonna have to look at a couple of little things tomorrow. Are you working on implementing different attack patterns? For this monster, it had 2 specific things, but we have a lot of other monsters that will do other things, so it's just a matter of making all of them. Where are they? Yes. We have a whole document on all the monsters for this particular chapter. So we're just going down the list and working on them as we go. And then we'll have some bosses and how those will be implemented. And we're just chipping away at them. The game is at a point where we just have to add in a lot of content. And once all the content's in, it's pretty much ready, other than lots and lots of testing, of course. So yeah, but I just finished implementing the AI for this monster, so we're pretty much ready to move on, other than that bug. Which I will write down here real quick. Check flag spawn location. Oh, wait, this is not my to-do. This is the boss document. How about the to-do list? So those were done today. And this is what we do tomorrow. Cool. Always good to have a to-do list. You just kind of quickly jot down anything at the end of the day so you know where to start up tomorrow. Or whenever you work again. Alright, and there's a good commit. Push that branch up. And we're done. Alright, what a good day of coding. A lot of fun stuff. Implementing the monsters and seeing them come to life and making all their mechanics work is part of the fun. So, programming is fun. It's also frustrating and hard sometimes. Life of programming, right? For those of you that tuned in today, I hope you enjoyed the stream. Thanks for watching. And we will see you all next time. Bye.